Yeah, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD. I'm Dubs.
Baby!
Oh, of course. Of course.
What's up? You put that in your pipe, you smoke it.
That is Tyler Polumbus. That is Scott Hastings. I am Rob Trujillo filling in for Dover for a little bit here as he goes on vacation. But while I did radio before in Denver, at one stop, I was called Dubs. So we can keep the PhD thing together. Perfect. If that's all right with you guys.
That's actually not your fault this time, Scott, because I can see you have a blue button on, but Dum Dum behind the glass back there hasn't turned your mic on.
Hey, Dum Dum is my father's name. You can call me Steve.
Also, we've got Nelly behind the glass sitting in for DT, and Grizz here as well. Man, a lot going on in the sports world.
Manischewitz.
But the first thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, did you see that almost no-no last night?
No, I was busy taking down another championship of my own last night. So no, I did not.
You won despite your.
I'm just saying, Super Bowl 50 took down. We took down Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey, and Tom Ruin. So
Tom Ruin's back in town.
So Tom Ruin was back for this.
Wonder what radio station he worked for 6 months.
It was fun, man. We did it. It was Broncos game show night. So some of the new owners are putting on just a little added extra value for season ticket holders at the stadium. It's going to be on TV Friday night and then again on Sunday, so you can check it out. I lucked into a couple easy answers that I was able to contribute on.
Was any of the questions we went over yesterday?
That's what I was going to ask.
So it was not like I was not getting their Super Bowl trivia. It was just general Broncos trivia.
Oh, okay.
So that was the only reason why I was able to survive.
What was the hardest Broncos trivia that none of you got?
Oh, I'll tell you the hardest one was Peyton Manning got up there with like this extra credit question, and he puts up a video and he's like, name the animated cartoon that I voice tracked so-and-so in. Can you think of a cartoon movie that Peyton Manning voice tracked?
A movie?
Yeah.
Was it the one that LeBron was in also?
I don't know.
Space Jam?
If you tell, I know the name of it, but I don't know who else was in it.
Well, I was going to ask, was it the Simpsons movie? So clearly not that.
No.
Because I could see him doing like a camp.
Fernandad.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, about the bull.
Oh, is that what that? Is that one?
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Oh, okay.
I really like that.
Well, apparently Peyton voice tracked somebody in that movie.
I know the book. There's a movie for that?
Yeah.
Ferdinand.
But anyways, the old geezers, they had to take that L on the way out the door. So I pulled the little Coach Mike on. Told him to take that L on the way out the door.
Now, Scotty, let me get your take on this. Is he allowed to talk smack? Because he was so nervous yesterday that I feel like he should be more,
on the way out.
More relieved.
I was tinkling my pants before every game I ever played in. But guess what I did? Guess what I did?
Wait, did you really?
I showed up. I'm a gamer, right?
Did you really?
And to go biblical on you, God doesn't call the prepared; He's prepared the called.
Thank you, Scott. Yes.
Look at that.
Did you just call Tyler like a chosen one?
Must have been yesterday.
Yeah, it went well. We might have figured out how to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. But then they figured out. So here's what happened. The first couple of answers, we were crushing them. We got up like 30 points to nothing in the first couple questions because Ryan figured out on the teleprompter it was giving the answers, right? Well, but then they figured out we were cheating, so they turned off our teleprompter, left theirs on so they could catch up cheating a little bit. But so then the cheating equaled out, and neither parties could cheat moving forward.
The Notre Dame kid.
Yeah, I had two Tobers on my team. I had David Bruton also.
And they are cheating off the teleprompter?
Do you think Ryan Harris graduated Notre Dame on his own?
So Bruton's smart now.
Oh, Bruton's genius. I didn't say anything about David.
Yeah. David's like a genius.
Yeah.
But I can still say Bruton and Ryan doing it. You probably just sat back, had your cold beer, put your feet up on the table, and they're going, boom.
Yeah.
200 Space Jam movies for 200, Al. So who emceed it?
It was our guy, Connor. Connor did it.
McGee.
Yeah, he is built for it. I'm not like obviously he's fantastic calling the halves, but he is built to host a game show.
He's got a game show host voice.
Oh, yeah. 100%. He could totally do that.
He could probably just do voiceovers and make more than he's making now.
Legit was phenomenal at at his role. Phenomenal at it.
So is that the first? Well, I know you keep in touch with a couple of the fellas, but is that the first time you like got together for an event with the Super Bowl 50 team?
Well, it was just. I know it was just three of them, but you know, I don't know. I guess we haven't had a ton of official events. I've definitely had Broncos events that I bumped into them at, but that was the first time I've ever done it was a Super Bowl 50 team versus it was team back to back versus Super Bowl 50. So those guys were the back to back guys. We now have 2 championships to their 2 championships, so we call it good.
Well, there you go.
Sure, yeah.
So did you know you knew Ed from radio stuff?
Oh, I know Ed, and I coached with Ed at Valor.
Right.
I know Rod extremely well. I don't know if I'd ever met Tom in person before.
Right. He's the grumpy one.
Well, you know what? He was great. Are you thinking about Nalen? Hold on. Are you thinking about Tom Nalen?
Nalen. You're talking about Ruin. Yeah. No, my bad.
No. I played with Nalen.
Yeah. So I was thinking Nalen. That's why he's back in town getting 6-month radio gig again. Nalen. There you go.
Yeah.
Tommy Ruin. Was Amy around? Is Amy in town?
No. Lisa was there though. Lisa McCaffrey was there, so she was great. She was a lot of fun. She was giving Ed a lot of grief.
The reason I ask, I know a lot of ex-athletes, particularly ones that have won championships, and they say they don't really get together with that team ever again until all of a sudden there's some big event that somebody puts on for like a 50th anniversary. Scotty, have you gotten back together with the Bad Boys?
We had the what was it? 101. I think we did our 25th, or maybe it was in. Because it was before. I think we did our 25th anniversary of our championship, and basically all but like 1 or 2 guys came back.
Yeah,
but our teams are small. We ain't bringing 63 back right for a reunion.
Well, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part about winning a championship. It's the only team that you will see again the rest of your life. Yeah. It's about the only one that at some point.
And you'll have a friend here or there that you knew that you played with along the way, but they ain't throwing reunions for a 12-win football team.
Right.
Or reunions for
do you think they're going to do something for, 50 years will be 28, won't it? You think that Detroit would have you guys all out or something like that?
Mine was 89-90, so
29.
I got 7 more years.
Yeah.
So it'll be a bunch of 70-plus-year-olds.
Nice.
You wouldn't go though?
Oh, I'd go in a heartbeat. I won't say the funny thing for me. So I went at 25, so... is that right? 25. So I was like when I was 55, 50 something. And it's amazing. Now you're grown ass men. I mean, you're grown ass, almost old men, right? And you've got life experiences. A couple guys are retired. Some guys are super, super successful, blah, 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 bing. But you go back and it's amazing how fast you just fall back into the roles.
Yeah,
the role. I come back and all of a sudden I'm the Joker guy.
We were talking about that last night. Yeah. There's no way to replicate a locker room until you get the actual locker room back together.
No.
It's unbelievable.
But 25 years later, when we had our reunion, everybody fell back into their role.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
If the Broncos did a 10-year thing in 2025,
I'd be there. Oh, of course I'll be there.
They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine
they
so.
Have to.
This ownership group has done a pretty good job already of honoring the history. I would be shocked if they didn't.
I actually want to say something about that. Two quick things about last night. Met so many listeners. You guys are phenomenal. Met Denver Jayhawk, who's a diehard in the Twitch chat for us.
Yeah, he's in all of that.
He was out there. But I got to talk about ownership for a second, because what you're just talking about there, Rob, man, I am blown away by Carrie Penner. Blown away. I got an opportunity to sit down, and she had no reason to do it, but we had a little private suite where we would go hang out. It was like a 4.5-hour ordeal, actually. So we'd take a couple breaks, go back to the private suite, and she just came over and sat down with me, and I must have talked to her for 30 minutes. And she is one of the most impressive human beings I've ever seen in my life. Number one, what you're talking about, getting the alumni back together, one of their first initiatives was getting an alumni director. So it sounds silly, but we didn't have an alumni director for the Denver Broncos.
No, it was usually Pat's secretaries
Yeah.
or assistants that were putting it together.
And
right?
and already it's made such a huge difference. But Carrie Penner, she is dialed in, man. She has got a feel for this community. She has got a feel for this stadium. I mean, hearing her talk about the upgrades that they did. I said something to her like, "Hey, where's your owner's box?" And so immediately she's like, "Oh, come on, let's go see it." So pulls me out and is taking me over to her owner's box. Actually, her key card didn't work, which I was laughing at. So she couldn't get into her own owner's box. But man, so dialed in, so smart, incredibly kind. Like I've never met a billion. Well, I guess I played for billionaires, but outside of the billionaires that I played for, I've never had like relationships with a billionaire.
Sure.
Just a normal human being. Like seriously, one of the sweetest ladies you've ever met in your life. I'm just blown away by how in touch she is with the community, what the goals are of the stadium, the community, all those sorts of things, the Jumbotron, the pride they're taking in, and then also football aspect. She gets it, man. She gets football.
Well, and to that pride point, I think they really said something to me when they replaced the turf for that one game last year. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
The turf was all beat up. I think they had a couple high school championship games on it, something like that. They had one home game left, and they still took pride in the fact that they are the owners of the Denver Broncos, and we're not running our guys out there on this trash.
Mm-hmm.
And they replaced the sod for one game. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool. Just another example of how I think this ownership is really doing some cool stuff, really dialed in.
Yeah. So anyways, it was a fun night. Sorry, that went a little bit longer than I planned on it going, but I did want to bring up Carrie. I'm glad you brought that up because I just could not be more impressed by her. I didn't get to meet Gray. I've met him before, but not last night. Carrie was the one that was there. And just a phenomenal. I couldn't feel better about where this team is with our ownership group.
Well, we'll have to call.
Did you ask her about Sanders? What she thought about finally having a Razorback on the team?
I did not bring up Drew Sanders. No, it's a shock, but his name did not get brought up. No.
We'll have to call 303 and get them to redo the song.
There you go.
And put your trivia championship.
You're right
in there.
Thank
as well.
you.
So
Thank you.
We'll look into that. Coming up next, I want to talk about there is one position group on the Denver Broncos that is shockingly thin. They've made a signing to try to help that, but not quite the one I was looking for. We'll talk about that next on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
Hey, what's up, guys? Tyler Polumbus from my friends over at Revitalized Health. Was just talking to the boys over at Revitalized this morning, and I'm so glad they're in my life. Man, it's not easy as you get older. Your workouts just don't go as far as they once did. You don't sleep good. You don't feel as good as you once did. But I've been working with Revitalized for 7 years now. Made a huge difference in my life. Whether you need help with testosterone, peptide therapy, hormone replacement, medical weight loss options, vitamin B12 shots, they've got you covered. They've got 3 locations, so they're close to you no matter where you live. And you can find them online at revitalized-health.com.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD. He's Tyler Polumbus. He's Scott Hastings. I'm Rob Trujillo filling in. And we are doing the country music giveaway of the year. Can I say that?
Well, listen, you're going to fly somebody. We're going to fly somebody to Vegas. That in of itself is a good prize. And then maybe one of the hottest country stars, if you like country music, you're going to get to go see a Luke Bryan concert in Vegas. And, we're going to take care of your hotel room. Not bad.
Seems pretty solid.
Yeah.
Listeners will have a chance to win airfare for two nights stay at Resorts World and Casino, and a ticket to Luke Bryan's show at the Resorts World Theater just by listening and texting in this keyword that we're about to give you. It's coasters. 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 I don't know. Hey, man, I didn't make the keywords.
Okay.
Who did it? Now, yesterday was Boots. The first day was Margarita.
I mean, I guess.
Does he have a song with coasters in it?
I don't know. Coasters feels country to me. Sure.
Coaster. Yeah. Oh, coaster. No S. Coaster. Coaster. I don't know. Does he have a song with coaster?
Why am I drawing a blank on the neoprene sleeve you put around the beer? What do you call that?
Koozie?
The koozie. Yeah, that might have made more sense to me.
Koozie might have been better.
But it's coaster. It's coaster. It's coaster.
You see, you guys
coaster
do
is
this
what you put on your table when you're setting a wet glass down.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's your keyword for today. Text that in. We'll have one winner that we choose that's wins a gift card to 303 Sports Grill in Littleton. It'll be a $50 gift card. And, of course, they will be re-entered for the grand prize that we will pick on Friday. We'll name a winner of that awesome trip to Vegas to see Luke Bryan. All right, so.
Let me ask this, and I'm going to switch, and it's going to lead right into Broncos. And if you listen to the first segment, and go back, because we're on our podcast and anywhere, the Spotify and all them other places. Whatever. But you talked about sitting down with Kerry Walton Penner yesterday, part of the ownership group of the Broncos, and how impressed you were of the Broncos. You said she is dialed in with football. I was talking with Andy a little bit yesterday, and you look at the demise that really started with the demise of the health of Pat, right? When Pat's health started going down, I mean, you can go all the way back, because I think they had turmoil in the front office. I think you guys got through it in 15 because you had Peyton Manning and DeMarcus Ware and some of those guys, yourself, Ryan. You had a good, solid core group of people, good people with one goal in mind. I think that changed, and I think all of a sudden camp started coming around, starting in 16 and 17. Remember, they didn't just say, okay, here, by the way, Trevor, you're our quarterback. No, we're going to, you got to fight for it. He wins it. Yeah. And then he wins it, plays well enough, nearly gets to the playoff. 17. Oh, you got to fight for it. And I just think there was turmoil. Does she sense that, or did you get any sense that she sensed that the stability of this organization, had a chiropractor said for your body and your back and everything be good, it starts with your neck. Well, to me, that's the same thing with an organization. They're the head and the neck. Did you get a sense that she understands we're getting our ducks in line and it's going to keep going all the way down to the L5?
Well, it certainly was no direct conversation about how bad the last 7 or 8 years were. However, there was a direct implication, and again, I don't want to share too much of what she said because it was a private conversation and everything, right? But I will absolutely say she is aware of how desperate this city, this state is to get the Broncos back to where they are. She is extremely aware of where this program has been. And I think stability, to answer your question there, we didn't talk about quarterbacks or anything like that, but Sean Payton was absolutely a conversation of this is a solution, right? No more Band-Aids. They're not looking for Band-Aids anymore. Right. They put up a couple Band-Aids in the stadium, putting up the Jumbotron and everything like that, right? But that's not going to be the long-term solution. There will be a solution. They're a solution-oriented group right now.
And I think, Rob, no matter where we're going, I know we'll talk a lot of Broncos and what's going on, cuts, added people we're going to get into and stuff like that. But this organization has to fix itself, I think, before the football team will ever start winning again. We talked, and I'd love to hear, Rob, what you think about this. We talked yesterday. This may be the first real coaching the offensive side of the football has gotten since Gary Kubiak had to leave after the 16th season. I mean, Albert O was better at the end of training camp than I think he was when he came into training camp. And that was 1 year of, that was one training camp of coaching from Sean and his people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be fixed for you. Worry about anything else. Oh, let's add this guy. Okay, whatever.
Well, and it's why I was so excited about Jerry Jeudy this year. You know, the guy hasn't really had quality offensive coaching pretty much the whole time he's been here. And so, you know, you pointed out with Alberto, if you can get not only a guy taught the right way, right, not just coached up in terms of mechanics or where we want you to be, when we want you to be there, not just that kind of stuff, but also calling plays to the guy's strength, putting them in positions to succeed.
Yeah.
It's all stuff that, you know, it's attention to detail, which is also what I think you were talking about with the ownership. And I think with this head coach and this ownership, you have a lot of attention to detail, and it's nice to see for the first time in a long time.
See, I think the average fan thinks, what can a position coach do for an NFL player? These are NFL players, right? I mean, they're the best in the world at what they do. Well, if you've ever had any doubt about what a position coach can do for a player, go look at what Garrett Bowles has done over his career. 1 year, he had a Hall of Famer coaching him. 1 year. That 1 year happened to coincide with the best year of his entire career playing football. Now, were there other aspects? Was it COVID? There was no fans out there. They weren't calling holding penalties as much.
Sure.
But I watched the film, and the reality is Garrett Bowles played his best football when he had his best coach. Last year, Butch Berry was a disaster. And it wasn't just for Garrett Bowles. It was the entire offensive line, dude. The dude didn't even make it through an entire season as an offensive line coach. Good coaching absolutely matters. And to Scott's point, I mean, it's not just Alberto. Look at Russell Wilson. Now, maybe the offensive line is about the only spot I couldn't say I saw extreme improvement throughout training camp. But if you look at this team from day one, pretty much across the board, you're looking at guys that look better today than they did 4 weeks ago.
And the first time we said that offensively in 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Which so then leads us to this conversation, right? So Alberto looked better than he has in 3 years. But you decide to trade him to the Eagles. Listen, the last game was probably a showcase. It wasn't going to really change the coach's minds as to if they wanted to keep him or not. That's all well and good. But when you do that and you keep only 4 wide receivers, and one of them's not even going to play for you, at least for the first couple weeks, because
the first guy the first guy you just added, right? Wasn't he a wide receiver?
Philip Dorsett, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So he'll be a practice squad guy, but and again, that's a dude that, yes, he was a first rounder at one point in time, but he's 30 years old. I'm not sure if he had more than 2 or 3 catches in the last couple of years combined. I mean, he has hardly done anything. But
why would you get a 30-year-old to put it on a practice squad?
Because rules are different now. Now practice squad is not so much about developing as it is a way to stash talent that you might need later in the season.
And that's the thing. They might need him to play.
I agree. But being void of talent and still no guarantee that anybody you have on your roster in the wide receiver room, 4 or 20, is going to be any good. If I can find a young guy, the Cap kid that we've been watching on Hard Knocks was just released from Kutztown. Last time I think the Broncos had a guy from Kutztown, pretty good, a guy named John Mobley. Pretty good, I believe. Pretty good player.
And good receiver Andre Lee came out of there too.
Well, there you go. But I would look at guys like that. I understand you want to stash talent, see what, but hey, let's get this guy in our program. Let's teach him up for a year. Let's actually make him a practice squad and as we just said, teach and develop. I understand you got to have guys immediately, and they need some immediate help. I'm a little less confident of Jerry Jeudy. I'm not sure that Jerry Judy's not a smaller Okwebunam. Super talented, very quick, good patterns, can't catch without his body. I don't know how tough he is, and I don't know how tough he'll ever be.
But we were going to find out this year. Right, like for the first time,
we still might.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah,
but you couldn't point at the coaching and say he's got
great coaching.
Yeah, for the first time.
I've heard some conflicted reports on Jerry Jeudy and how long he should be expected to be out. Somebody told me the other day this is a more serious deal than what most people think, but the evidence tells me the team doesn't think it is. Because the evidence says
would that be the first time you heard that in the NFL?
Well, no, of course not. But I mean, if you look at what the team is saying, we carried 4 wide receivers on this roster. We got rid of a guy in Kendall Hinton that's just Mr. Reliable. It would appear the team is telling you they feel relatively comfortable about Jerry getting back in a reasonable time frame, right? But I don't know. I've heard some things behind the scenes that it might be a little bit longer than what most people are thinking. So, wide receiver, you saw Sean Payton said yesterday, which I thought was kind of interesting. He said, look, we're going to be here till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, scouring the waiver wire, looking at everybody that got cut. He said, if I felt good about this roster, I'd go home at dinner at 6 p.m. Right. So, Sean Payton just told you.
He never, and you know what? Is that not a veiled shot a little bit to GM?
Well, yeah.
I mean, a little bit?
Yeah.
Veiled?
But you also, coaches have certain styles.
I don't even think Sean Payton realizes that he was taking a shot at the GM when he says that. I think he's just being honest at the moment. Yeah. But absolutely.
But coaches want guys that fit their scheme. So George Payton wasn't necessarily drafting guys or building a roster that fit his scheme a year ago. And just like Dion and when you go into Boulder, you got to turn that roster over to fit the coaches.
I understand all that, but you know what you also do when you don't know? You get talent. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure. And listen, I've read tons of stuff online and different articles. I mean, they've called it one time before training camp started one of the worst talented teams in the NFL. I mean, it was on, I don't know if it was a Pro Football article or whatever. Basically, like as far as pure talent on the roster, I think they were 28 out of 32 teams.
Well, and I mean, let's talk about the number of undrafted free agents that made the team.
You got 4. So an all-time record. They got 4 undrafted free agents that made the team for now. We'll see. This roster is going to turn over. We'll see on opening day how many of those guys are there.
I know we got new people running the show and new ownership and everything else, but there for a while during the Super Bowl runs, the old guy Super Bowl runs, they had a streak of like 8 or 10 years of an undrafted guy making the team, and that was always a rose in the vase to the front office that they could find a guy talented enough that no one else saw something in.
You go back to Mike Shanahan and the amount of running backs that he turned into 1,000-yard rushers in the 6th, 7th round, undrafted dudes. He took pride in finding guys. Shoot, my class, I really do believe this. I think my rookie class is the greatest undrafted class in the history of this franchise. And it starts with Wesley Woodyard. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable player.
Who all he did was lead the SEC his last 2 years in Kentucky in tackling.
Right. And somehow goes undrafted.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on now.
Brett Kern, the curse of Brett Kern, who gets cut after being like a Pro Bowler because Josh McDaniels
is stupid.
Got sideways with them for some reason. And then you know what? Obviously, I wasn't in the category of those two guys, but I had a hell of a career, man. I played 8 years in this league, man, and I ended up starting 60-some games in the NFL. That was a hell of a class.
Terrell Davis, 6th round, Shannon Sharp, a 7th round, Rod Smith, undrafted.
Yeah.
But those were really talented rosters that you were adding those guys to. That we added you to, Tyler. Like those were really talented.
Doesn't that make it even more impressive to make a team with a very talented roster?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it begs the question this year, if you have 4 undrafted free agents making it, are you adding that to a super talented roster?
No.
Or was this roster a little bit devoid of talent?
Then, which once again goes back to what I said, a veiled little shot at the general manager because he's still been, whether it's for this system or that system, you're still supposed to be bringing talented people in here.
Well, and so I think they need to bring in another talented wide receiver. I think there's no question about that because I was on the show with the morning guys and I said, who are your best? You put 5 skill players out there. Who are your best 5 skill players right now?
You don't have 5 great skill players.
And like no shot against Jaleel McLaughlin, but he should not be on that list. He is an undrafted free agent running back. And if he's coming in.
He will make the team though. He won't be one of them guys replaced.
He'll be around. He's going to have a very limited role this year, but he will have a role. He's not going to be featured by any means, but he's going to participate and he's going to be a part of things.
But for your Vegas game right now, he's one of your top 5 skill players.
Well, let's assume Russell Wilson gets back to chalk, gets back to above average quarterback, NFL quarterback, which I think he will. There's one.
Jerry Jeudy should be in that category,
but he's not yet. Again, you got to prove it, right?
And he won't be there week 1.
And Cortland Sutton should be in that group. And I wouldn't put him there yet either.
I feel pretty good about Cortland right now. I think this is maybe Cortland Sutton's best training camp of his career. Looks absolutely phenomenal right now. I'm excited about where Cortland Sutton's
But he's top 5 just by default. But so like Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich,
Oh,
Javonte
but I mean-
Williams.
I mean, it's
and
not,
who?
It's not just by default. I mean, the contract says that they believe Cortland Sutton's a damn
Yes.
good football player.
And again, we can go back to your argument 2 coaches ago,
Yeah.
right? Or when he drafted, was he drafted? Did he play for a year with Vance?
Yes. 2018 was his rookie year.
I'll take your word for it.
So,
I don't
Yeah,
know.
something like that. But it doesn't matter, whatever. Listen, I like Cortland, but the one thing I noticed watching the camps when I was at it, he's not going to separate. And his MO coming out at SMU, because he also played basketball there, was that he was a jump ball guy. That you could throw it
It's one
to
of the
him and he
trivia
was going to
questions
get it.
last night.
Yeah.
What
Larry
player
Brown.
played at SMU and played 3 basketball? I think it was 3 games he played for him, something like that. Did he play more than that? I don't know.
I thought he played more than that, but we had Larry Brown on talk about. Larry came on the show and we talked to him about.
You know, my mom
Cortland.
dated Larry Brown.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Shut up, Scott. Shut up, Scott.
Let's see that jump shot. Let's see that jump shot real fast.
No, but so, I mean, my only point is I think they need to add to the wide receiver room and in a big way, because I named 3 guys who I think are very talented skill players.
Well, don't expect a big way. It's not even possible at this point to add in a big way. Even if you went out and signed a guy like Jarvis Landry, that's not adding in a big way. And if they do sign a guy like that, by the way, it'll come in week 2. They're not going to sign Jarvis Landry before week 1, where they have to guarantee his contract.
Right.
But so that's what I was going to
you
talk
might
about.
see a guy like Purcell come back in week 2.
Well, Purcell will be back for sure. That was a procedural deal where they're about to put us a couple of guys on the short-term IR. Once they do that, Purcell and who are the other 2? There were 3 guys that they already said it was procedural.
We're coming back. Yeah. You're right.
Purcell's one of the 3.
Has to be.
But so I don't know who else you put out there when you're putting out your skill players. You know what I mean?
You know what a guy you haven't mentioned who I put out there? And I don't know why I fell in love with this cat during training camp. P. Ryan.
Yeah.
I think P. Ryan's going to be special. Okay. I love how he runs. He can do other things. He can catch. He can throw a block, his body in there. I think Samaje P. Ryan's going to be really big for this team this year.
I think they're going to have to run the ball a lot week 1 because I just don't think you have a ton of pass catchers. But we'll see. All right, some interesting rules coming out of the IIHF. That's the hockey tournament. They're changing the rules of hockey a little bit, and I think we should talk about it. We'll do that next on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD, Polumbus, Hastings, and I'm Rob Trujillo filling in for Dover. But they called me Dubs once upon a
Go ahead,
They
try
called me
again.
Dubs once upon a time, so I can still fill in. I can be the fill-in D.
Yeah.
I can be the replacement D.
You're the little D.
All right.
What? What happened?
I did have to mention that I was filling in on the tallest radio show in the world, and that I don't really fit the bill.
No, but you're big. You're big.
Yeah, I'm a large human.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Listen, nobody's messing, which I've used to my advantage more than once in my life. So
There you go.
that's good. All right, so the IIHF is the International Ice Hockey Foundation. They're like the FIBA or the FIFA. They're like the World Cup of hockey, if you will. And they have a championship coming up, and they've decided to change a couple rules, not how we're used to them for the NHL, and I kind of want your guys' take on them. So, minor penalties. Normally what happens is if a team scores while the penalty is delayed or scores on the power play, penalty gets released. It's over, right?
Yep.
Not anymore. Not in the IIHF World Championships.
Which will change the outcome of games.
Oh,
Big
absolutely.
time. Are you kidding me?
If you're behind and you get a penalty, you can absolutely make a little bit of a run and come back. They also are going to make it that if you score a shorthanded goal, so you're the team that has a penalty on you, and you score a shorthanded goal, penalty's over. And so I'm wondering what you guys think about changing, really, honestly, one of the fundamental things that affects scoring in hockey is the power play. And you're really messing with it here. Now, lacrosse has unreleasable penalties, and they normally, it depends on like the severity of the penalty, whether they will make it releasable or non-releasable. In this case, it's all penalties. This will be true for both minors and majors.
First take on mine, and you can go across all sports where the majority of the rules that have changed, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, always kind of benefits scoring, the aggressiveness. I wanted to say offense, but really leads to scoring,
Yes.
more exciting play. Well, now you're telling somebody, say, listen, you get a delayed penalty, you're going to be more aggressive than you ever were, right? Because you're going to get that, and you're going to get that penalty, still getting it beyond there. You got a chance to just crush them. So maybe creates excitement in play. Shorthanded goal, that's an interesting one. So, dude, you screwed up. Hey, sorry, you screwed up, penalty's over. Now, I always thought that rule should have gone that way. I always was surprised that once the other team scores, well, they're going to double penalize you because now you're still in the penalty. Mm-hmm. So I always thought that rule should have been changed too.
I like it. I mean, listen.
Doesn't matter.
I have got no issue with hockey as it stands right now. But I do think, to Scott's point, when you see games evolve, you see games evolve for pretty much the same purpose across the board, no matter what the sport is. More action.
Yeah,
more action.
more action.
That's why games evolve. I mean, shoot, one of the reasons why America's never gotten behind soccer is because it's 0-1. It's 1-0. It's 2-1.
Nil.
2-0. Thank you. Yeah. And listen, we're America. Give me more. Give me more points. Give me bigger, better, faster, stronger. Right. So I think it's cool. That is kind of interesting though, because it definitely is going to encourage more action. If you could score before you even get to the penalty, and then you get the penalty still, you could score. You can double up, right?
You can score 10 times on the penalty, and it still wouldn't release.
I guess I didn't even think about that. That's right. It just keeps going.
You could just fill up the net.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
And it's interesting because
but the other side of it though is if you're the shorthanded team, you can now kill the penalty entirely by scoring. That actually slows it down a little bit in theory.
Does it? Because what it's going to do is I
yeah.
think it's going to cause the defending team to take a couple more chances
I don't know
to
about
see
that.
if they can score a shorthanded goal and end the penalty, and it'll cause like kind of a 5-on-3 back the other way kind of thing.
I don't know about that.
Because when you
Well,
watch
it can make the team under penalty be more aggressive, which
Right.
then if they don't score, get them in trouble, which now all of a sudden here it comes back here. Now you're really in trouble. They score, now penalty's over anyway. And
no, it's not over.
well, no,
Not with these rules.
If the team that had the advantage, you're man down, you got the penalty. You attack, you're going to be aggressive because we can keep this penalty going, or we can get this penalty off. We attack, miss, team, boom. Now you come back and you've really attacked. Now all of a sudden they score down on the other end. but you're creating action both ways.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And it's like the 3-on-3 that we've seen where if you go down and you miss a shot, going the other way is
trouble.
a little bit of a rush, right? Like
especially if you go 2-on-1 or something, and a goaltender stands on the head, you're in trouble.
So if the shorthanded team is trying to score to end the penalty, the other team might get a nice little break the other way. And like you're saying, Scotty, create a whole lot more action. I don't know. It's a very interesting concept. But if you do have one team that's just that good and they go on, think about the Avs 2 years ago, if you would have given them a full 2-minute power play every time, how many goals do you think they would have scored?
Two or three.
So
that's the one that I would be sketchy on.
Here's my only deal with it. Generally speaking, I want the best team to win. I want the team that played the best hockey, that played the best football, that played the best basketball, whatever the sport is. Generally speaking, I want them to win because they deserve to win. And this is absolutely going to lead to games where teams just get crushed for 3 periods. They're just getting crushed, right? They're down by 3 goals. All of a sudden, they just happen to have just the penalty of a lifetime. They go out there, they score 3 goals on 1 penalty, come back, tie up the game, or win the game in a game in which they absolutely get dominated.
Yeah, I mean,
you get dominated the entire game, and then all of a sudden you get a lucky 3 minutes that you make up for everything.
It can also go the other way. A team like the Avs a couple years ago, even on a 2-minute penalty, can just bury another team and score 3 goals. You know what I mean? Like it could be really, really, it could tip the scales a whole lot.
For sure.
All right. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about when it came to the Avs, Jonathan Drouin was recently at a charity golf event. He comes in, he's a good friend of Nathan MacKinnon, signs a vet minimum deal, close to a vet minimum deal. Gonna probably play on the first line with MacKinnon. Had an okay last year in Montreal. And the reporters were talking to him about why he didn't extend with Montreal or why he chose to come to the Colorado Avalanche. And one of the things that he said was the anonymity of Denver. And I just, as two people around pro athletes here, I kind of want to know what it's like to be a pro athlete in Denver, because no doubt Montreal is a crazy hockey town. You got twice as much media there. The fans are wild. I'm sure they recognized him out on the street. So I don't doubt that Montreal's a crazier hockey town. But what's it like being a pro athlete in Denver, Tyler?
You know, I mean, I guess I assume that's specific to hockey when he says that, which I don't know. I don't know if that's a shot at the fan base, if that's a shot at. I guess it is. No, you don't think so?
No, because you've got 200 straight games sellout or something. I mean, the fans, the hockey fans of this town still support him. I think though, Rob's right in the sense, what do you have in Montreal except the Canadiens?
Exactly.
The Argonauts.
You only show in town.
No, that's Toronto.
Aerocats or whatever their name.
Yeah, they got some.
But let's be honest, the only thing they got in Montreal is hockey. Mm-hmm. Here, guess what?
We got it all.
Going the same time. You know, start of your season, you still got Broncos. Start of your season, now you're going side by side with the Nuggets.
Yep.
So there's more attention that can go tink, 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 tink when you're a hockey player in this city. Montreal, it's boom.
Well, and Scotty, being around basketball players, like, I don't know, my friend lived in the same building as Nikola Jokic. You know what I mean? Like, she saw him on the elevator, but like he was just a normal guy who walked around. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was getting mobbed or anything like that. And I think part of that has to do with just the size of the city. It's not like there's a huge press contingent following him around. But
we thought it was a little crazy, but it was also kind of cool. How about when Aaron Gordon basically walked home the night of the championship, right downtown with the revelry was going on.
Probably not the smartest thing he's ever done,
but he was mobbed.
But made him an absolute hero.
But he was mobbed, but not crushed.
Yeah.
Right? People loved it.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a smaller town attitude still. It's grown up. You got every vice and every way to get in trouble here as in New York City. Maybe just not as much, but you still got the amount. But I still just think there's such a competitive nature in fans and the fan base that the Broncos, for example, I think the Broncos' demise over the last 8 years has probably helped the Avs and the Nuggets, to be honest with you.
Of course.
And now the Avs and Nuggets are both good. Well, let's watch them a little bit.
Well, so real quickly, both of you won championships in cities that you played in.
Yeah.
So could you go to the grocery store? Like, is this a thing that happens in all cities where there's this, or is it only Montreal and LA and New York that have this kind of fervent attitude? Like, Tyler, could you go to the grocery store in 2015 when you won a title?
Yeah, of course. But I'm not Peyton Manning. I'm not Demaryius Thomas. I'm not Von Miller, right?
And you played the helmet on.
And I played with the helmet on, and 100% that matters. Now, see, people, when I walk into, now, people recognize me now way more than they did when I was playing, simply because of my voice. They'll hear me. I'll be standing ordering food at a fast food restaurant. They'll be like, "Oh, you're Tyler. I know that voice, right?" Whereas previously they would just look at this giant and they would be like, "Oh, you got to be somebody," but I can't quite piece it together who you are. Yeah. But I've never been on that level, you know. And for me, it's all about the context of where I am. If I go to a sporting event, oh my gosh, I'm getting stopped 25 times, right? If I'm going to a movie, probably nobody says a word.
What about you, Scotty?
When you go back to Detroit, or Detroit fans come here, and it's been 33 years since I played on a championship team, people still recognize me, which is amazing to me, because I was a 12th guy. I mean, I didn't even start. Tyler
That's
started.
how I feel in Seattle.
Yeah, and I'm like, how? You know, I mean, I got my face on the championship T-shirt and all that stuff like that, but that was light brown hair, and this is is platinum. So fans will always recognize. I feel like I listen. It's been even longer than that since I got out of Arkansas. I go to Arkansas, people recognize me all over the place. I haven't lived there since '82, right? And I haven't played there since '82, and I still go there, and people recognize me all the time. We got 2 dudes here from Arkansas, and that's all they. I mean, whenever they see me, Oliver Miller's better. No, he wasn't. But anyway.
Who's that?
He did play on a national championship team for him, so I guess that counts.
All right.
But no, you know, listen, fans are going to fan. I think football's always had an anonymity more so than any other sport because of the helmets.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the NBA in comparison, every single man on that roster,
people know.
Know because you see them. And honestly, I give the NBA a lot of credit. Nobody markets their superstars better than the NBA.
Well,
nobody does.
And you were a young kid, and you probably don't remember, but the NBA was on the verge of losing a handful of teams. They only had 23 at the time, and I want to say it was the 84, 85, 83, 84 season, and teams were going broke, and they were losing it, and you brought in Stern as your commissioner, and to save the league, he says, we need to promote our stars. And so it started back in 83, 84 to where, you know, they're not making the money the NFL are, but they ain't making peanuts. Yeah. I mean, they're talking about the Knicks contract, $8 or $9 billion or something like that.
Well, and the players are blowing out.
Yeah, and now it's international, right? I mean, we saw the big Nike sign of Joker in Serbia on one of the big buildings. So now it's become international. And social media's blown up, and they were the first to go social media. I mean, they were the first ones to grab a hold of social media. They have more, what's it called, activity on their social media sites than all the other 3 professional sports combined. Yeah, when you look worldwide. So, but Tyler's right. They made a purpose of promoting individuals.
Absolutely,
and that saved the league.
Yeah, for sure. All right, history almost made in sports last night, but just almost. We'll talk about that next on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
What's up, guys? Josh Dover for my friends over at Superbook Sports. It's where I do all my sports betting. I encourage you to do it too. If you're new to the game, I'm going to help you out with that in a second. Or if you're an avid sports bettor, you have all the apps, so download Superbook, and I promise you, you're going to like the lines that you're seeing. It's no computer. It's no algorithm. It's my main man, Jay Cornegay, sitting in Vegas. They just lock him up in a room in Westgate and make him come up with lines. That's his whole gig. So it's you versus Jay, not this computer system that somebody is rigged up to go against you. Superbook Sports. Again, I told you, if you're a new bettor, I got you. I always tell you, if you got betting questions, hit me up. I'm at Joshua Dover on Twitter. Tag them at SuperbookCO. And if you use my last name, Dover, as your promo code, you got a chance to get up to $250 back at a first bet bonus. Who doesn't love free money? Again, my last name, Dover, as your promo code. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's Polumbus, Hastings, and Dover. I am Rob Trujillo filling in for Josh Dover while we do the country music giveaway of the year. At least that's what I'm calling it. Country music superstar Luke Bryan has announced the final show of his record-breaking Las Vegas headlining engagement at Resorts World Theater. The 5-time Entertainer of the Year has fans on their feet and high energy in an electric performance that features only in Las Vegas production elements. Luke Bryan in Vegas, the final show dates runs August 30th through September 9th and December 29th through January 6th. Tickets on sale now at rwlasvegas.com. And we want to send you. We're going to send you, and not only are we going to fly you out there, but we're going to give you hotel and tickets to the show. All you have to do is text in the keyword to get entered. One person that texts in the keyword today will also win a gift card to 303 Sports Grill in Littleton. And then everybody's entered for the grand prize drawing on Friday to see if we fly you out to Vegas. That keyword today is coaster.
Coaster, which the boss man sent us an email because I was kind of making fun of coaster a little bit because when I heard coaster, I'm thinking like I'm putting my beer on a coaster on the table, right? Well, coaster is the key word because of a Luke Bryan song named Roller Coaster.
Why is it the keyword roller coaster?
You don't want to put two words on there and make it more confusing. So
technically, Scott, that's two words.
That.
That's two words.
Well, according to this, it's spelled in one word. Roller coaster is one word.
Okay. All right. Interesting. But then we would have to explain to people that it's one word, not two.
Yes.
2 words.
Well, in Luke Bryan's song, it's spelled 2 words.
Okay. All right. Well, that is why it's coaster today.
Which makes all the sense in the world because the boss made it, right?
And sent that email with a lot of exclamation points when he sent it to us.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did.
3 exclamation points?
Roller coaster. That was a little. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, Kevin. That was a little bit of a sensitive email.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a sensitive email from him.
Yeah, he seemed like he was a little. He was upset that we were dogging his pick a little.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just telling you. I thought
the comment from Scotty. Well, all right. Last night,
I once built a table once and just took 4 legs and just stuck them together and put some plywood on top. Hey, I got a table.
There you go.
Not real creative, but I had a table.
And what are you trying? How does that relate to this story?
I just was telling a story.
Just telling a story. Okay. Yeah. All right. Interesting. Last night, the San Francisco Giants had an almost no. They took a no-hitter into the 9th inning. They took it all the way to 2 outs in the 9th inning, and all of a sudden a line shot single into the gap that their player had no chance to catch. And I felt a little bit bad for the pitcher, but it also made me think to you guys, have you ever been like that close to history? Right? Because like that pitcher then keeps that forever. I threw a no-hitter, right? Like that is yours for all time. Have you ever been that close to history just to have it slip away right at the last second? Any moments like that that you can think of?
I just won the championship and retired personally. I mean, I let it slip away. I mean, I just won the dang thing, walked off into the sunset and threw up a number 1 figure, you know?
That's it.
Yeah. I just don't know that experience.
You didn't have a Carnation Bowl loss or something? I mean, come on, TV.
Well, to show, I mean, listen, no hitters, you get your name, somewhere in a book and it's all great and blah, blah, blah. The king of no hitters, obviously in baseball history, is Nolan Ryan, right? He's got 7 no hitters,
and like 4 or 5 that he took into the 9th inning, I think, right?
12 one hitters, 18 two hitters.
That's unreal.
So just keep that in mind. He had 30 more games where he had a 1 or a 2 hitter going. I'm sure some of them went into the 9th or 8th or went real late. But no, it'd be time. I had just the opposite, almost. I guess I could be count. When I was in Babe Ruth baseball, and they had a guy, and he played linebacker. And when he got to high school, he's a big guy. Never really grew more. And we thought he was a monster. And it was like my first year in Babe Ruth, and he was like probably a senior in high school, going to senior. Hey, a big, strong dude. We thought he was throwing at 99 mile an hour because he was just probably 6'3" and about 215, 220, and we were scared. Threw a no-hitter on us, shut us out, red flagged us or whatever it is, and we didn't even go the full 7 or 9 innings, whatever it was back then. But I came to bat, and I got 1 at bat. That's how efficient he was and how bad they beat us. I lined one right center.
Nice.
Dude makes a catch. I mean, he had to go back, boom, caught it one hand that was the only ball that got out of the outfield. So I was like, dude, I was this close
to ending the no-hitter.
I mean, the coaches were fired up because I got a ball out of the infield and no one else got one out of the infield. And it was, so I had one on the reverse of that where I was almost able to
end history
into one hitter.
I was
and with my speed, I would have taken a double into a single for sure.
No question about it. Probably inside the Parker. But I was playing in Washington one year, and we had some bad years out there. Now we had some years where I knew I wasn't making the playoffs for like the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, maybe even longer than that. And when you get in that spot, man, it's tough to stay motivated. It is. There's no question about it. You don't have much to play for other than you're trying to keep your job. That kept me motivated enough, but it's tough. And I remember there was one year, Jason Babin was a sack and a half, I believe, something like that, maybe 1.5 sacks away from breaking the all-time single-season sack record. And it came down to week 16. He needed 1.5 sacks, and I was going up against him in a game that meant nothing to us. The Eagles were in great shape to make the playoffs, and he was trying to break the all-time sack record. And all I could think about that entire game was, dude, if you're that guy that gives up the last one, you're the one that's on ESPN the rest of his life. You're the one, every time they show the highlights, that's the one that broke the record, right? So all I could think about that entire game was, don't be the idiot that's on ESPN the rest of your life. Fortunately, I didn't give up a sack, and he did not get the record.
There you go. All right, so both of you had kind of the opposite side.
Let me ask you this. So the no-no in baseball is to try to lay down a bunt late in the game with the no-hitter on the line, right? Yeah. And guys have done that.
Yeah.
And they are shunned and whatever. So to keep the record, were you willing to hold and take a penalty as a bunt?
Hell yeah. Are you kidding me? I wasn't going on
Which
ESPN.
was the equivalent of a bunt, right?
Yeah, if I got to give up a 10-yard penalty, no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not living on in infamy.
I've seen games that are like 0-0 and there's a runner on, because you can have a runner on if you walk a guy or there's an error or something like that. And there was a guy on base and they're trying to bunt him over to score him, and people still went after him for bunting to break up a no-hitter. Like, that's
you
got to still win the game, right?
That's
you
true.
still gotta,
if it's 0-0, then I got that. Speaking of 0-0, and I ended up watching it, I saw the greatest Little League game I have ever watched in my life.
Didn't watch the Little League.
It was the Little League World Series.
I was usually I just watch that from work here. I was watching that from home last week.
Really?
I
What
was.
is wrong with you two?
This was Texas. It was like Texas and a Washington team, state of Washington team. Texas ended up winning 1-0 in 9 innings, and they go 7. And I'm like watching dudes get thrown out at home in like the 6th inning from center field. This dude a guy tried to get from second to score, threw a dude out, saw another dude make a diving catch for the other team. I'm watching these kids, and I know they're Little League. And I'm going, dude, this, and I ended up watching that whole thing going, this is the greatest. I mean, listen, it was better than any game I've watched with the Rockies this year, no question. And I believe it ended 1-0, and it was a semifinal game. 1-0, Texas advanced, Washington went into the loser's bracket. I don't remember if they won or not the next game, but it was the greatest Little League game I've ever seen. When you've got and how old are these guys? 12, 13?
Something like that.
I mean, you're throwing dudes out from center field, trying to stretch a hit into a score because it's nothing. This coach, dude. I mean, they're doing the replays. So now ESPN's showing it, right? The replays, the official look at it. I got it. Got his elbow down in front of the plate. Dude's foot popped up. Boom, tag on. I mean, it was fantastic theater for a Little League baseball game. I thought it was outstanding.
That was your Little League World Series breakdown, brought to you by Scott Hastings.
I watched Texas play Taiwan in the.
So Texas made to the
so
they
World
played,
Championship. They
played
played in the losers game, so they were playing for 3rd place.
A riveting, dude. Riveting.
Poor pitcher, man. Texas pitcher, first inning. Bases loaded, gave up about 5 runs in the first inning.
Kind of like going to a bowl game when you win 6 games. You know, do you really care about the bowl game, or are you just there having fun at the?
No.
See, you will this year, and we're going to talk about that coming up next because Deion Sanders had some interesting quotes. We'll talk about that coming up on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
Hey, what's up, guys? Tyler Polumbus for my friends over at Revitalized Health. Was just talking to the boys over at Revitalized this morning, and I'm so glad they're in my life. Man, it's not easy as you get older. Your workouts just don't go as far as they once did. You don't sleep good. You don't feel as good as you once did. But I've been working with Revitalized for 7 years now. Made a huge difference in my life. Whether you need help with testosterone, peptide therapy, hormone replacement, medical weight loss options, vitamin B12 shots, they've got you covered. They've got 3 locations, so they're close to you no matter where you live. And you can find them online at revitalized-health.com.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD. He's Polumbus. He's Hastings. I'm not Dover. Rob Trujillo filling in for Josh Dover as he goes on vacation.
And folks, let's be honest. Rob got Josh fired, and he's now auditioning for the job for the next 2 weeks. So let's be honest.
Why do you think I wear my hair like him?
Took Dan Tanner with him. It's actually probably going to be the best week of radio we've ever had without Dan Tanner or Dover.
Yeah.
So cold.
When's Dan come back? How long you here?
He will be back on Wednesday.
Yeah, he's going to like Toronto, right?
Yeah,
Dude, we told him they do these, which on one end it's kind of cool.
No, it's not.
Well,
the idea is cool.
The idea is cool from a standpoint if you got a bunch of boys and you do a fancy league amongst yourselves, and you go to some cool place, and and do your fantasy league, and then it's like a mini vacation, and you vacation together as boys.
Right.
That's cool. That ideal
The idea, yeah,
is cool. But going to Toronto, and all they do is booze it up, and I'm like, dude, I showed him yesterday all the taxes on liquor and alcohol in Toronto or in Canada. Gonna crush you. He goes, what? I go, yeah, hard liquor, the tax on it is like 60%.
Jeez.
So I mean, and supposedly they're hardworking dudes. They ain't got a lot of money. It's like they're on vacation. And Toronto's a great city. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I love Toronto, but ooh,
Yeah. Well,
not to go party.
Well, let's have a little party here because
Go to Savannah. Or
You know, I've never been north of the
Savannah.
border. I've had a couple layovers.
Wait,
yeah,
you played in Seattle for 2 years, 3 years,
2 years. Yeah.
and you never went
No.
to Canada.
What? No, I did not.
Sugar Baby's just north
The
of Seattle.
furthest north
close
I
to-
made it was up to the San Juan Islands. I made it that far.
Listen, man,
awesome experience, by the way.
The Canadian ballet is
Well,
no
you know
joke.
what? I
We
wasn't.
had training camp at Windsor.
I wasn't as immature as you guys.
And now you wish you had been.
Yeah, now we have life experiences to talk about and you don't. Okay, speaking of life experiences, I don't know how I'm going to transition. Coach Prime did a nice little press conference yesterday and had some interesting things to say. So let's fire it up. Let's do some Prime cuts.
Coach Prime.
If you get close to me, it's going to smell like Dolce, but my natural odor is winning.
Polumbus, Hastings, and Dover present Prime Cuts.
Appreciate you. I adore you. I love you. Yeah. I dot I's, cross T's. I don't miss nothing.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
All right.
Still a great fight song.
Did you see them all teaching him the fight song and teaching the new players the fight song?
You know what? I did see that. I'm glad you brought that up because that was the first time I thought, wow, I never even thought about the fact that football team doesn't even know the fight song.
Well, 80 new players or
They had
whatever?
like the 12 carryovers trying to teach the players what they're supposed to do. And it was awkward. Like there's little nuances to it, like when to go high, when to go low, like roll that score up, you know, all little nuances. That was weird seeing that.
But I mean, that's what you do, right? You practice it so you're ready for game day.
I did see when I was there, we did not add on at the end the
Buff them up.
yeah, the buff 'em up, go see you.
Buffaloes,
Yeah.
go see you.
I mean, that's all it says, right?
No, it says buff them up is what it says.
No, it's Buffaloes.
Buff them up.
Buffaloes.
Yeah, in the stands. That's what they're saying.
yeah.
Buff them up.
That was weird though, seeing a
It
team
is,
have to learn the fight song. That's just bizarre.
Yeah, it was
But
strange.
it's a good fight song.
Oh, it's a great
Good,
fight
catchy
song.
fight song.
One of the best. All right, so Dion is doing the press conference and talking about actually how they have 61 new players on the roster.
Coach, you've been part of football played at the highest level.
Yes, sir.
For a lot of these kids, this is going to be new. What is your impression in terms of the way they will respond Saturday when the ball's kicked off?
Well, they came here because they wanted it. They came here because they wanted the light, they wanted the smoke, they wanted the attention, they wanted the focus, they wanted the love. I mean, but also you got to understand there's an opposite of that as well, that you got to be willing to accept when you want all and desire those things. These kids are ready. We prepare them not just athletically, we prepare them mentally for things and challenges that's going to happen in life as well. So I like what I see on a daily basis. I really do. Matter of fact, I love these kids. I really do.
They want the smoke.
They want the smoke.
That's part. I mean, listen, you had to know when he was recruiting you the scrutiny that's going to be on this team. TP, you and I were talking before the show. 5 or 6 wins would be quite the turnaround
Oh,
for
heck
this
yeah.
CU
Six
team.
gets-
Dude, I
still
got to tell you guys, last night was the weirdest experience of my life. I'm at a Broncos event at the stadium, at Empower Field, full of season ticket holders of the Broncos. And I'm telling you, I had way more conversations about the Buffs than I did about the Broncos. Matter of fact, Carrie Pennant was standing right next to me, and I turned to her and I go, man, they're fighting for your attention over here, I'm telling you. And she just laughed. She's like, it's awesome. I love it. Like everybody loves the attention
Listen.
that's coming to the state right now because of it.
We've had Jay Norvell on. We had Jim Calhoun on. Nelly, you getting Prime this week?
Yeah, it's gonna anytime.
See if we can get Prime this week. But both of those two coaches said the state is better when CU and when football is good here. And I would throw the Broncos in on it, right? When you've got CU and CSU rolling and the Broncos rolling, when what was my guy? I forgot his name. The old coach there that was CSU.
Sonny Lubick?
Sonny Lubick.
Yep.
Well, when you had Sonny Lubick running the roads down at CSU, and they were always good. CU was pretty good, or always good at that time.
Great.
The Broncos were good. Both coaching staffs would take turns coming out to Broncos practice and hanging out with Mike Shanahan. Football was great in the state of Colorado. And you saw it in the high school play. You saw all the high school teams start to elevate. You got Robinson, right? The guy that came in as a quarterback coach with the Rams this past week was a quarterback at Chatfield. I mean, football got huge.
Winning is contagious across the board.
And
100%.
lately, other than Air Force, college football has kind of been way down. And the Broncos, to be honest, they joined them.
Yeah.
Broncos are the equivalent of a 3-win team. I mean, for college football, basically, weren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
But to your point about how many wins, I can't tell you how many people ask me that exact question. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I have no clue what to realistically expect from this team. I don't even know the roster. I don't even know the players. I seriously, it's going to be brand new for absolutely everybody. The national stage, Deion Sanders will get crushed if he wins 5 games.
Yeah.
I think locally it's a different story. I really do. But nationally, he will get destroyed, man. I mean, they're on Heisman watches. They're on I saw a list today of breakout playoff teams, right? Potential playoff teams. Buss are on that list. Come on, people are out of their minds right now. You don't go from one win to a college football playoff team in one season. But if you get to 5 or 6 wins, dude, hell yeah, that's a party.
I mean, you might be able to in today's college football. But it would be
not in 1 year.
A heck of a feat. It would be a heck of a feat.
Not in 1 year.
All right. By the way, no dumb questions coming up in just a couple minutes. So if you have an NDQ, go ahead and send it in on the Twitch chat or the text line, and we will answer those no dumb questions coming up in a couple minutes. But one more cut I want to get to as part of Prime Cuts here. Listen, this is the first time Deion is coaching a Power 5 school. And so I think it's a fair question that this reporter asked. How about the bright lights for you?
But this is going to be your first time as a coach for a Power 5 school in this big stage. What's going to be going through your mind when you're out there and you finally get to put this product on the field for the biggest audience?
This ain't it. I know it may seem like it, but it's not about me. And you talking about a big stage. I think I played in the Super Bowl and the World Series. I'm good.
I mean, I love this swag there. But I think he makes a good point. It's not about him. And it's good that your coach has that mindset
But you can't say that.
It's about...
You cannot honestly say it's not about him.
We can say that it's not about him. He can't say that.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. 100% it's about him. The gear that you buy says Prime. All of it is about him.
I would say this, that I think that it's good that he says it's not about him, because he's brought enough attention to himself in the program. By bringing attention to himself, he's brought a lot of attention to the program. Look how much gear is being sold. I know he's getting a piece of that. Look how much activity on the CU Buffs channels, including his, have just kind of blown up as well. Look at the recruits that did want to come in and play. I know he got rid of a lot of guys. 63 new guys. It sure seemed like a whole bunch of guys wanted to come here.
Sure.
Right? So his light brought a lot of people in. Him. Probably wasn't CU, because you know what? And we both think Boulder is great. We think the University of Colorado is great. But you know what? I ain't seen a bunch of 5-star guys wanting to come there.
Not previously.
Yeah.
And Deion Sanders got more 5-star recruits in 1 year than the history of the program.
In the history of the program.
But that's what you want a coach to do, right? Is even though the shine is on him, to say, it's not about me, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
Right?
You want him to say that, even though we can all sit here and go,
I just can't buy into that personally.
But I will say this.
I'm glad he's saying that.
I will say this. For a guy who, paid a tuition there, had a daughter graduate there, been to a lot of football and basketball games up there. They've got cooler swag right now at CU than they've ever had. I mean, some of the stuff and sweaters and hoodies and stuff you can get now are sweet.
You know what Colorado is right now? It's like what the Raiders were during 90s hip hop. Like they were the cool thing to wear.
What about the Hurricanes of the 90s?
The Hurricanes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Matter of fact, by the way, did you see the shot that Dion took on Florida State? So he was asked about all the Hurricane players.
We have it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and play this real quick.
Hurricanes like myself.
Yeah.
And you're a Knoll, my friend.
No. Actually, do you know where I graduated from? Yeah. Who said that?
How does she not know?
You know everything. She didn't know that. They didn't know that. Tell them again, where did I graduate?
Listen what he's saying, though.
I graduated from HBCU. So I'm a who?
You're still a Knoll.
I'm a who? I thought it's where you graduate from, isn't it? Why you keep calling me that? It goes to where I graduated from. I'm an HBCU grad.
But there was another line in there that he said, I graduated from Talladega College.
He probably got his degree, his final degree,
and
right?
then he said, I'm not a Knoll. He said, I'm not a Knoll.
Which is kind of crazy.
It is. Well, now keep in mind, though, he wanted that job, and I do wonder, is that because everybody assumes that he'd jump to Florida State in a heartbeat if he gets the opportunity?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He might be ticked off he didn't get that opportunity.
You think he
already.
might be sour still?
That sounds like a guy that's a little sour. He might be telling the truth that he got his degree finally. Maybe he didn't graduate when he left Florida State. But, dude, come on. You go back and watch the highlights of Colorado or of Deion Sanders in college.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a seminal.
We all remember
the high stepping started in Tallahassee.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're a little late. Let's get to it. NDQ. All right, so I've got a personal one, and then we've got a good one on the text line. But one I want to ask you guys first. There's been this whole saga about an Adele fan who watched her show in Vegas and was screaming, crying, singing the songs, and people behind him were asking him to calm down and sit down.
It was a dude.
Yeah, because he was just way over the top with it, and it's one of those questions of when you go to it's a concert. So if someone wants to stand and sing, they should be able to stand and sing. And it made me think about you two fellas, the tallest radio show on the planet. So doctors who are 6'8" and 6'7", and I mean, I don't know how actually tall you guys are.
6'8", he's 6'10", 11-ish.
Do you guys pay attention to who's behind you when you go to a concert?
No, dude. I mean, I'm cognizant of that everywhere I go. When I go to church, I sit in the last row every single time, dude, because I'm cognizant that people can't see behind me.
That's crazy.
I mean, I absolutely think about it. I'm not a huge concert guy. I would think concert, that's off limits. Everybody's standing at a concert.
Yeah, you just get to do what you want, right?
Yeah.
It's a concert.
Now, I do think sporting events, there's a code and there's an etiquette to when it's appropriate to be standing at sporting events. I do get irritated at people that stand at inappropriate times at sporting events.
Interesting. What about you, Scott?
I'm aware. I got yelled at a Navs playoff game when I got standing room only tickets. And I was standing right up against a wall, and this lady went nuts, and I kept trying to move and try to get out of her way. But, the action comes up, and I was in a designated line, so I come up the line, and she came down and just started yelling at me. Got ugly a little bit, more because Mama was with me. And Mama went nuts. But
Is it something you normally think about, or only when some crazy lady yells at you?
When I go to Red Rocks, and we go quite a bit, I'm aware I'll usually look around me. And I've seen people had to move one side or the other, or switch standing with their husbands.
Yeah.
And I'll try to sit down as much as I can and peek through the thing just because I'm conscious of blocking people's views. Now, that being said, tickets for Adele in Vegas, that little bowl amphitheater, are going about $560 each.
Oh, for reals? Over 1,000 these tickets were. That's why the TMZ put it in their article that for this specific night, it was over 1,000.
But right now, you can get tickets in September 16th, section 402. Where's 402? It ain't even on the floor. 402 is the top of the bowl. 533 is tickets.
Jeez.
So I'm not even,
I mean, is this not what happens at a Taylor Swift concert? Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it sounds exactly like a Taylor Swift concert.
Section 203, 711. I don't even know if they got any floor seats available.
Yeah, I mean, because they're going for thousands of dollars.
I would think if I'm spending $1,000 to go to a concert, I probably want to stand also.
Section 105 on the floor was going for $1,000 $13 a ticket.
Yeah.
So on one hand, if you and your wife or you and your husband or whatever went to the concert and you got over 2,000 vested seats.
I'm doing whatever the hell I want to do if I spend $2,000.
But you're also then that means complaining to that guy, hey doc, sit down.
Right.
You know, I mean, they're
a couple people tried to, but they ended up going and getting security.
Well, what got bad is the security guy went, like, all of a sudden started causing a scene. But the guy was nuts, too.
He was, and then Adele, if you don't know the story, actually
I'm living in a hole. I didn't see this story.
Adele on the stage actually says,
Stop
leave him alone.
the music. Leave him alone.
Leave him alone. He's just singing. He's just in his seat being excited and singing.
Wow.
So
But the video I saw, because I was saying the same thing, he's just in his seat. I thought he had stood up and went all the way to the stage and was in front of the stage. And so I wonder if he was actually in front of his seat or he came down and got in front of. Now, if he came away from his seat and got down in front of somebody on the front row that just paid $1,100, $1,300,
yeah,
we can get in there.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. NDQ, what's the difference between released and waived for NFL clubs? For this, we go to our expert, Tyler Polumbus.
Man, I'm going to feel like an idiot here because I do know what the difference is, but I don't understand when it qualifies because released happens to vested veterans that when they get released, they don't go on waivers, meaning you cannot be claimed. Another team cannot claim your current contract. When you're an unvested veteran, when you get cut, you hit waivers, right? But I actually get confused at this time of the year. Doesn't everybody go on waivers, even including the vested veterans?
No, that's why you have the parking lot where it's like to little Jordan Humphrey, they say, hey, we're going to cut you. We're going to sign you tomorrow.
Oh, you're right. That's
after
why
we put
Mike Purcell.
somebody on IR.
Mike Purcell. Yes.
So we put somebody on IR, the roster spot is open again,
That's right.
and then we'll sign you back because you don't have to go through waivers and nobody can
For some reason, I was thinking that started after week 1, but okay, that makes sense.
All right, I like this NDQ. Who is the better NBA player? Ja Morant with Luka Doncic's vertical, or Damian Lillard if he shoots like Ben Simmons? Which is the better NBA player? Ja Morant, who jumps like Luka, or Damian Lillard, who shoots like Ben Simmons?
Ja.
Even if Ja can't get up, even if he doesn't have a vert anymore?
Because at least he can still shoot better than Ben Simmons. Right? Ben Simmons.
I mean, and that's Dame's game anyways.
Yeah. But I don't even know Ben Simmons, what his 3-point, has he ever made a 3-pointer? I mean, honestly.
I saw an article that is clearly put out by his agent that he's locked and loaded, ready for a comeback this year.
Nice.
So you might get more Ben Simmons than you want in your life.
Is he out of contract? Is his contract finally expired? Is he a free agent?
I believe so, yeah.
What does that say if no one signs him as a free agent? 6'9" point guard.
He can't.
He's not good at basketball.
A 10-foot shot.
I understand that, but let me ask you this: if you had an open roster spot, would you take him on a vet minimum salary here in Denver? Because he can't play defense,
and hopefully distribute, which was something that would be nice for the.
And he wouldn't have to be a star here. He's hey Ben. All we want you to do is attack the rim and play defense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying but I don't know.
Something to think about. Something to think about, though, right?
I don't know that I want that as part of your Denver Nuggets. All right.
Really? No, well, and I've told the story before. You weren't here. I had a buddy of mine who coached him. He said his problem is he'll do what you say, but he doesn't love the game.
Yeah.
He loves being a pro. He loves getting the money. He loves the acclaim and all. But I don't think he loves the game, and he doesn't put any extra work in to be better.
Well, we'll find out now, right? Like if you're going to be playing for vet minimum, we're going to find out if you love the game or not. So, all right, there's a backup quarterback problem in the NFL. We'll talk about that next on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's Polumbus, Hastings, and Dover. I'm Rob Trigilio sitting in. And kind of a weird day yesterday. It's always a tough day, NFL cut-down day. A lot of emotions involved in it. In fact, I've heard more than one player say you go to the facility the next day and it's just kind of empty. There's nobody there. You feel like there's 10 guys on the team because so many of the people that you just went through, a brutal training camp with are no longer there. But one of the interesting things from Cutdown Day yesterday was the number of backup quarterbacks that were cut. And we're talking about names that you know, right? Guys that you've heard of before who have started games in the NFL. Now, a lot of them in fill-in roles, obviously, they are backup quarterbacks, but allowing teams to have a third quarterback that can play in a game if they're not on the game day roster, you thought teams would hold on to quarterbacks more, and they absolutely did not. We're talking names like Bailey Zappi, P.J. Walker, Colt McCoy. You gotta cheer.
Would you rather have Danucci or Colt McCoy?
I'd rather have Trey Lance is who I'd prefer.
Well, but you're not going to get that.
No, I mean, as far as the third guy goes, I don't think the Broncos should carry a third guy. Listen, the way this thing works out is you can only have that guy. So first off, dumbest rule ever that the NFL has that they just need to get rid of is that you cannot dress 7 guys on game day. So of your 53 guys on your roster, 7 of them have to be ineligible for the game. But the way the rule changed is now of those 7 guys, you can put a quarterback in a uniform. He technically doesn't count as somebody that is available on game day unless there's an emergency. However, he has to be on the 53-man roster. So you can't just have a practice squad dude dress for game day and be available. You would have to preemptively activate him to the 53-man roster. I do think carrying 3 quarterbacks is stupid. It's like, first off, for a number of reasons. Like Sean Payton said, it's like once every 4 or 5 years deal where you get to that situation where you need that many quarterbacks on your roster. But bigger picture, dude, if you get to your third quarterback, it's all over anyways. like seriously.
That old Tom Moore quote.
It's over.
Unless your third quarterback's named Brock Purdy.
Well, there you go. And again, that's not a once every 4 or 5 years. That's a once like every 20 years, right? So something like that happens. So if I'm a coach, I've got 53 guys on my roster. I would much rather have somebody else that could actually impact the rest of the game than carrying a third quarterback who's going to suck no matter what.
That being said, if you're the Broncos and you're looking at maybe putting a quarterback on a practice squad, do you go offer one of these guys so he's at least practicing your system for the entire year? And then if you get in a situation where you do have to activate him and put him on the 53-man roster, he at least knows your team. I mean, have you been happy with Ben DiNucci and you're fine with him being the practice squad QB?
I'm totally cool with Ben DiNucci being the practice squad guy. Totally cool. First off, I thought he did some good stuff in the preseason. Second off, he's been here. And now here's the problem. If you go out and you get a guy like, Colt McCoy's a veteran. He could pick it up in probably a couple weeks. He'd be okay. But understand, if you bring in somebody from outside the system right now, that third quarterback on a practice squad, he's literally getting 0 reps from here on out. And I mean 0, none, nada, nothing. So if you bring in somebody from outside, the opportunity for them to learn your system is so limited. That's why it's almost always going to be a guy that's already been in your building.
It is limited, but if you say you signed a Colt McCoy to your practice squad, at least that guy now is going to be your scout team quarterback and probably has the knowledge and ability to really lead the scout team during practices.
That's interesting to emulate the other team's plays.
I mean, that's a veteran guy that's seen everybody, and that might be a good guy to have.
And listen, Colt's my buddy. I mean, Colt's he's my hunting buddy. We go on hunting trips down to Texas. He's my guy. I love Colt McCoy. But like I said, if you get to that third guy, I'd rather have somebody that I'm developing that maybe in 2 or 3 years can be around. Because honestly, if you get to Colt McCoy at that point, as much as I like him and respect him, the season's done. It's just done. So I'd just rather have somebody that I'm developing that maybe in a year or two he turns into an actual backup QB.
The Patriots doing interesting things as always.
This one's wild.
Cut everybody except Mac Jones.
Yeah,
they have wild. 0 quarterbacks on the roster aside from number 10. This is a team that went without an offensive coordinator last year, so they're not afraid to do some weird stuff, but it's strange that they don't even have a backup QB on the roster.
Yeah.
Now you wonder, are they just, calling Brian Hoyer and saying, hey, for your 18th year or whatever it would be, put on the jersey and come hang out with us.
Hoyer's with McDaniels, right?
Is he in Las Vegas?
I know he was. I don't know if he got cut or whatnot.
I don't see his name on the cut list.
Okay, so maybe he's still got a job. But, Bailey Zappi was okay filling in last year. There are people who said maybe he should start when Mac Jones was healthy. And he gets cut. You know what I mean? You go in with only one quarterback. You got to sign somebody before the week's out. It's
that's a wild one. So first off, I would assume that Bailey will end up on the practice squad unless somebody claims him. I would assume that their plan is to put him on the practice squad. But now they're going to bring in a number 2 from outside the building, ignoring what I just said entirely. They're going to bring in a true number 2 quarterback that doesn't know the system, hasn't been in the building, right? So they must have their eyes on a guy. I don't think Brian Hoyer is the guy, but I think you're on track there. They must have their eyes on somebody that's already been in their system. They cut him a couple years ago, something like that. I don't know, but it's got to be somebody that knows the Patriot system.
Scotty,
I got a guy.
You got a guy.
Somebody tweeted
I got a guy.
Is that Tom Brady music?
As a third backup practice squad guy, Trevor Siemian.
Well, there you go. I thought you were going to say Kendall Hinton.
Trevor just got cut by Cincinnati. So
with their quarterback probably not playing for a while.
Yep. So he's a good option. I don't know that he's got any. I don't think he has any history with the Patriots, though, does he?
I don't think so.
No, but I'm not talking Patriots. I'm talking about here for us.
Oh, you're talking about here?
Yeah, I'm talking about us. I'd rather have Siemian than Danucci.
Me too.
That's interesting.
Me too. No
was
question.
he in New Orleans when Sean was there?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Trevor played with New Orleans?
Trevor played for Sean Payton.
So there you go. That's a great guy to have.
That might be a third guy if you're going to look for a practical guy. It might be Trevor Siemian.
I'm down for that in a heartbeat.
Somebody said that Zappi's back on the practice squad, which I had looked up and hadn't seen that he's back on the practice squad yet, so I can't confirm that. But even still, you have to activate him to the 53-man roster if he's going to play, unless...
Yeah, but that's not a big deal at all. I mean, you can do that on a Friday. You could have your practice squad quarterback training as your number 2 all week long, getting reps with your starting offense, and then you don't activate him until 24 hours before the game.
Does the emergency QB rule apply to backup quarterback, or is it only third quarterback? Do you know?
Well, it's the third quarterback, which, I mean, the backup's going to dress no matter what. You will always have a backup quarterback dressed and available on game day.
But that's what I'm saying. If Zappi's on the practice squad,
No. He cannot. If you're on the practice squad, you cannot dress on game day.
Even
you
if he's
have to be
elevated.
on the 53-man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean,
there's a bunch of wide receivers that you talked about earlier in the show that are available right now too.
Devoid of weapons, the Broncos offense, no doubt. Any specific names that you're looking at, Scotty, that pique your interest?
Well, and Tyler's got me thinking now, okay, relationship because he likes it, blah, blah, blah. I do like Trevor Siemian. I hope he's our third guy to bring back. Rashad Perryman is available, cut by the Colts. I mean, if you're looking for a fifth wide receiver,
yeah, and Jarvis Landry's out there, and Tyler, you kind of poo-pooed that before. I don't know how much football he's got left in him.
I'm not pooh-pooing it. Matter of fact, I wouldn't mind signing Jarvis Landry at all.
Yeah.
I just think it's something you do in week 2, because if you do it in week 1, if you were to decide to cut him in week 4, then
it's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed, right? So, but if you sign him in week 2, you could cut him at any point, and the only money that he makes is the weeks that he was actually on the roster.
Well, if that's the case, then I know he's an old man. I'd go get Julio Jones in the second week if he's not available.
That's what I was going to say. He's still out there, and listen, he didn't look great when last time he played, but you need just receivers. But
a veteran presence, I'm assuming he's a good dude and all that stuff with young receivers. Get him in week 2. You don't have to guarantee it. If he really is old, like when they brought Jerry Rice, remember everybody was excited when they brought Jerry Rice into camp with Shanahan. He was just old.
Didn't he wear number 19 or something?
But he was just old.
It looked everything about it looked weird. He was in orange wearing 19. It was just everything about it was strange. But hey, he's Jerry Rice. You know what I mean? So hey, he's Julio Jones. Do you bring him in?
At one time, maybe the best receiver in the game for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Both of them were, obviously.
But he was always an athletic freak.
Are you talking about Julio?
Julio, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was always an athletic freak.
Cheat code, man.
Right. So, but then aren't you a little bit more concerned about the age than you would be for.
I see, and I've heard Nate talked about age when he's talking about Russell and all this. You know, the orange is the new black, 40 is the new 30 almost. I mean, you see these dudes now lasting longer. The development of the science. I mean, I can go back to the training camps I first started going to in '93 watching the Broncos, '94, and now, I mean, they didn't have shake machines and I mean, dietitians and stuff. They had meat.
Right.
They had meat and potatoes and scrambled eggs and biscuits and gravy. I mean, and now it's like, I mean, they got dietitians. They've got the float in the saltwater bathrooms. They've got tough knees rehabbing in a pool, jogging in a pool. They've got, I mean, they got the brainwave stuff that they do now with players. The technology is so much. I think we got to change our curve as far as old dudes go in the NFL.
You 100% correct, but I think it matters what position you're talking about. 100% correct with an offensive lineman, with a quarterback. But wide receiver, that's one of those positions that, man, once the athleticism goes, well, your brain can't overcompensate for the athleticism at wide receiver like it can at offensive line.
Didn't you say the other day that Dallas looked at T.O. at 50?
Yeah.
So Julio Jones at 36, 37?
Right.
I want to talk about this more on the other side because there's another world-class athlete that it might be time for them to hang it up, and they're saying they're not going to. We'll do that next on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
Hey, this is Tyler here for my friends over at Phil Long Ford. Guys, every single car that I bought since my rookie year has been from Phil Long Ford in Denver. And I keep going back because I always have a great experience. I know that car shopping can feel a bit cumbersome at times, but not at Phil Long Ford because they've got the largest inventory in the state of Colorado. Whether you're looking for a used vehicle or a new vehicle, they've got the largest selection and they've got the best deals. And you can check out all those deals online at phillongdenver.com. They've got incredible inventory arriving daily. They've got cars and trucks on the lot for you to choose from, or you can always go online and get exactly what you want. And check out their incredible line of electric cars, pickups, and vans with the latest technology. They've got the largest selection. They've got the best deals. They're going to get you in. They're going to get you out. And once you buy a car from Phil Long Ford, you will be a customer for life because you will realize that it is an experience that is different than other car dealers in Colorado. Go check them out online at phillongdenver.com and let them know that Tyler sent you on over.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD. He's Polumbus. He's Hastings. I am not Dover. Rob Trujillo filling in. And, I saw a tweet yesterday, Scotty, from Harrison Wind, who covers the Nuggets for DNVR, that we are 8 weeks away from the Nuggets receiving their rings. And it just kind of made me think, do you got any inside info on that?
No.
Have you seen these
yet? And no one's had any contact with me. Nope. I have no idea.
No, you got nothing.
Nothing.
Have you tried? Have you called a couple people to see if you can get a little inside info?
No.
Come on. Doesn't he seem like he's lying, Tyler?
No, I'm being honest with you. I'm being honest truth.
All right. Well, I'm excited for
29 years of service gives me nothing.
Oh, I feel like if you made a couple phone calls, you could find out, what they look like. Or
I could probably make a text. I don't know if a guy's saying.
All right, we were talking about.
I will say this: same person owns the Avs owns the Nuggets, and we saw the Avs rings.
They came out okay.
Yeah. so I'm assuming the same type of people are making decisions. So I'm sure the players' rings will be really, really special.
And they got to be gold, right? I mean, you're the Nuggets. Got to be gold rings. They can't be silver.
White gold.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just something that came up last night made me think of you.
I promise you, they're going to be awesome. I'll give you that inside information.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. All right, we were talking about
and real fast. Speaking of that, and I don't know what you think about this, Tyler. So that's 2 months getting the ring, and probably 3 months of getting ready to go for 1st of October, right? There's even that long. They did a video the other day from the practice court. They were asking all the guys that were there, favorite Kobe moment, stuff like that. Dude, they interviewed 8, 10, 12 dudes. I'm like, man, they already got a buttload of, including Jamal
guys
Murray.
Here.
The guys already here training to work, and I'm like, dude, this is a short summer.
But we've talked about that a lot. That's because we live in a very unique city that athletes actually hang around in.
Yeah.
And they actually enjoy being here in the off season. They make it their home. They buy long-term homes here.
Well, and I think it also speaks to run it back. I mean, I think everybody on that team believes that you're up for another one. Yeah. And so I think that can motivate a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And Nikola and Aaron, stay in Serbia and have fun.
No question.
He was like, they had another post like yesterday or day before.
Aaron Gordon apparently went back.
Went back or whatever.
Yeah. 2 trips to Serbia in one off season.
In about a 2-week period.
That's a brotherhood right there.
Pretty good. Have
That's
fun.
kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
And relax and take your time. You are not the guys that we need to be here right now.
See, I thought about saying, because I've always wanted to go to Rome, and that's where the Ryder Cup is this year, and we're going into debt, and we're going to go to the Ryder Cup, and then have a few days off and be able to go visit the Colosseum and Vatican and all that cool stuff. I did try to talk Mom. I said, let's go to Serbia. Maybe Joker will hang out with us.
There you go. Yeah.
Just find your way to the racetrack and be like, hey.
I guarantee you, if you went to Serbia, he would show you a good time. I guarantee you he would.
If not him, his brothers for sure.
Yeah.
Would you call him though, or would you just show up at the racetrack and be like, hey?
Well, if I'd gotten her to say yes, I would have tried to make sure I had his number and said, hey, I'll be over there.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You should try. All right. We should mention that we are giving you a chance to win airfare for 2 and a 2-night stay at Resorts World, as well as tickets to see Luke Bryan's show at Resorts World Theater by listening every day this week. You send in the keyword. The keyword today is coaster. If you send in the keyword, you can be not only entered to win that trip, but also we'll pick one winner from today who wins a gift card to 303 Sports Grill in Littleton. So you've got, 55 minutes left to send in the keyword coaster and get in for today's drawing. We were talking about athletes kind of, hitting the time where you got to pull the jersey off of them. Mm-hmm. And last night, Venus Williams got eliminated from the U.S. Open. 6-1, 6-1.
Yeah.
She's had a rough season. There's talks about how she might have had injuries, and so maybe if she rehabs and works hard and comes back, she might come back healthy. But she said afterwards, I'm not done. I'm not quitting. I am coming back.
I think she's holding on for that one last magical experience. I think she truly believes that she's still got one more run in her. looking for that one last magical run, probably fades off into the sunset. Gosh, what tournament was that last year? She made a run at it. Was that the Open? It might have been. I can't remember. But she made a run at one last year that was pretty fun to watch. Look, man, it's always tough. But when you get to that stage, hey, if you just like playing the sport, just play the sport. I mean, seriously.
And it's not like she's not making money.
I feel like some fans are like, oh, why would Joe Montana keep playing? Like, he's only going to hurt he's not hurting his legacy. She's not hurting her legacy. That legacy is cemented. She's Serena Williams, you know?
This is Venus. This is Venus.
Or Venus, I'm sorry. Oh, I was thinking about Serena earlier. But yeah, I mean, either one of them. Venus is the same way. Are you kidding me? Incredible career.
Yes.
If you want to play tennis, go play tennis. Who am I to tell you what to do?
Well, but it made me think, you know, I think this is relatable to anybody who's played sport at any time. If you really loved the game that you were playing, even if the last time you played was in high school, the last time you play is like a tough experience. It's emotional. And sometimes you've got to pull that jersey off people. And so I was wondering if either of you had an experience where, you know, someone had to like sit you down and tell you like, hey, it's over, or did you quit yourself? Like, what was the end of your
left too
career?
soon, and I had opportunities, but Denver got in my blood, and I was tired of moving my family around. But I could have played, you know, 2 or 3 more years and been this team for a year, maybe 2, this team for a year.
Did you know your last one was your last one?
Only because I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew the general manager here probably didn't want me anymore. And so I said, I'll just be done. But then, you know, a week after I said I'm done, I get a call from Cleveland. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to Cleveland. I lived in Detroit. You know, those winters are brutal in Detroit and Cleveland. I said, I don't know that. And then around December 10th, Orlando calls, hey, we need somebody to push Shaq around in practice. Now, if Orlando would have called in the summer first, I'd have been moved down to Orlando, and I'd have played in Orlando.
Sure.
Because I'd have gone there, you know, for a little warm. I could have talked to family. Hey, the family moved down to Orlando. You know, no taxes, Disney World, blah, blah, blah. But they called in December, and I was already into doing radio and you know, Nuggets games and everything else. So I said, nah.
So, I mean, I had such, like Scott and I, we got extremely similar exits, extremely similar. Man, so I was, my last year was Super Bowl 50, and that year, I had the situation pop up that I was talking about with some of these veterans. I was playing in Atlanta. I got cut in week 3. I knew that I got cut in week 3 since I was on the roster on week 1. I was going to collect my entire salary that year. So I'm sitting there in Atlanta and get cut in week 3. I know I'm getting paid for the entire season no matter what. And I'm sitting there having a conversation with my family and like, man, you know what? Tired of moving the kids around. They're at a point in life where I would either have to leave them in one city or they would have to keep moving back and forth between 2 schools in the middle of the year. And you know, it was just that time. And so I was getting ready to retire right then and there after I got cut from Atlanta in the middle of the season. Matter of fact, bought myself a plane flight home to Denver. I get a call an hour after I booked my flight back to Denver. He says, hey, Ty, John Elway here. You want to come back play for the Broncos? And I'm like, well, I got a home. I already booked a flight. Sure, why not? You know, so I finished out the year. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that this was likely going to be my final year. I didn't know for a fact, but I had a pretty good hunch. And then when I got to that Super Bowl game, I didn't ever vocalize it. But internally, I knew this was the last game I was ever going to play. I knew that. And then you win it, you go off into the sunset, I'm at home, my kids are in their own house, all those sorts of things. And like Scott, I ended up having a couple job offers after that. I walked away on my own terms, but what Scott and I did is extremely rare. Yeah. And I think we both have some regrets about not taking that extra couple of years. I look back at it now and I'm like, what was I doing?
$1 million reasons.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's $1 million season at that point in your career. It's $1 million season every single year.
Did it make it easier because you rode off into the sunset?
At the time, yes, and it absolutely was a huge part of it. But now I look back on it and I'm like, I kind of wish I wouldn't until the wheels fell off.
Who did you play with that was like that? Peyton, maybe? I mean, did you play with anybody, Scotty, who was
that hung on too long?
That just until they ripped the jersey off of him, kind of.
No, but I remember talking to Rolando Blackman, who, when I took a visit to K-State, was the big star at K-State, and So we became friends from then, and then obviously had a great career, but he played 16, 17, 18 years. And I went and talked to him probably like year 13 or 14. I said, dude, how long? He said, dude, the money they're paying, and back then he's probably making $600,000-700,000.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, we'd all take $600,000-700,000 right now, right?
Heck yes.
He goes, Scotty, I'm gonna make him peel this jersey off of me. I'm gonna play until they have to tell me. I'm not gonna give it up.
Yep.
So, and there are guys like that, and the money's too good. Now Serena probably still has endorsement deals that she's probably making, whether she plays any good in tournaments or not. Her and her sister won, I think, 14 or 14-0 in major finals in doubles. So she's got a lot of doubles finals to go along with all the other wins with her sister. So I mean, she'd probably doing all right financially. She'd probably go and lecture. She'd probably go to tennis camps and speak for 100,000. So she could probably still make money. But there's also something. Listen, and we saw the bad side of guys staying too long. Muhammad Ali stayed too long. Stayed too long.
Yeah.
And I think his health paid for it at the end because he stayed too long. It seemed like boxers used to always stay too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's because promoters screwed them out of millions and millions of dollars on their backs, right? But yeah, listen, and my suggestion right here, if you can physically play.
Yeah. That's interesting. Tyler, anybody real quick that you can think of that?
I think it's 99% of the guys that ever play. I don't know. See, I don't agree with the played too long part. I just don't agree with that because I don't care whether you're not the same player when you're done. If you're getting paid money to play football, to play basketball, to play whatever, and you enjoy it, I don't care what it does to your legacy. You want to talk about something selfish. Retiring because you're worried about your legacy is stupid to me. That's stupid. No, play the game because you want to play the game. But absolutely what ends up happening more times than not, it's not the Peyton Mannings that we're talking about here. It's guys like they could have been me who get cut, and then they keep holding on for 2-3 years training, thinking that they're going to get back into the game, and the call never comes. But you're delusional because you believe that call will come eventually, and then all of a sudden 3-4 years disappear from your life, and you haven't moved on and gotten a new job because you're still holding on to the dream.
And probably spending money training too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's another thing too, though. Venus was injured. She is 43.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And you look at these world's number ones, what, like 19, 21, something like that?
Coco Gauff is 19, Alcaraz is 20.
So you're competing. You could be their moms.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Matthew Stafford's wife, I'll bring it up on the other side, but she was talking about how he's having a hard time connecting to his teammates right now because they're so young and the generational gap and everything. So I'll bring that up on the other side. But also, I got a name for you, a wide receiver that is available that Broncos fans will know that I officially want them to go get.
All that and the Daily Dose next on Altitude Sports Radio. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's PhD. I'm Rob Trujillo filling in. And Steve Nelson is filling in as well. Nelly doing today's daily dose for DT. What you got, Nelly?
Yesterday, the news came down that the Broncos are trading for Saints kicker Will Lutz. The Sean Payton, New Orleans, Denver
nuts.
Reunion tour just
see what I did there.
the reunion tour from New Orleans to Denver just keeps going on. And I'll tell you what, yesterday when the news came down on Dempsey and company, people were pissed on our text line and Twitch. I don't know if this bled over to your show as well, but people were saying the Broncos had a kicker and they cut him. And then they went through this whole drama with 2 kickers that they tried out in camp and then they cut them. And now they gave up something to get a different kicker. And so people were not happy about this. Sean Payton talked about the move in his press conference yesterday, hopefully to put some of this unrest to bed.
I think he'll fit in fine. At the beginning of the whole process, he was a target for us. We knew they had 2 players. Meanwhile, our guy was doing well. I was there through the whole beginning with Will, and then, he went through a core muscle injury, much like Riley's going through right now. Obviously, his numbers dropped off a little bit. We had a really good training camp for them. We've seen all of his kicks and got pretty good information on how his practices went. So a lot of it was, a young player who, we think is extremely talented. And look, this is a place kickers want to be with the altitude and the conditions. So, we're excited about that.
It's an interesting question as to why he cut the first kicker in the first place, right? It's got to be because he was the player.
So here's the deal. With Nathaniel Hackett, by this point in the season, we had 4 or 5 different things that you could point at and be like, oh, that might catch up to him by the time the season begins or by the time we're halfway into the season. There's only one low-hanging fruit with Sean Payton right now that you could criticize, that you could point to and be like, this is going to haunt him. It's going to haunt him. The kicker's going to cost you 2 or 3 games this year. It's going to haunt him. Why'd you cut Brandon McManus? Look, this is low-hanging fruit, but it is the most obvious decision that he has made that you can question, that you could say, why? Why? Well, we know why. It was because Brandon McManus was a player rep. That's why. And he was trying to change the culture of a locker room, and he just didn't want Brandon in his locker room.
Talk about what that means, though, Tyler, like the player rep. So he's the voice of the Players Association in that locker room for all the guys who are new there. What is that guy? Is that guy normally like a leader in the locker room? Is he a problem for the coach? What does it mean that he's the player?
It's not a problem, but Brandon's pretty unique. He's one of the most powerful kickers I've ever seen in a locker room. Kickers don't have the type of influence that Brandon McManus had on a locker room. And he's the guy that says, hey, CBA says we got 2.5 hours on the field. We went 2:45. I could turn that one in. I think that was just bigger pictures that Sean Payton didn't want people counting minutes, right? Along that line. But I will say this. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with Will Lutz, not because I think he's a better kicker than McManus. The stats say he's not. He had a worse year last year than Brandon McManus had last year. But I will give him credit on this. If I'm a head coach and I'm looking at a kicker, I don't care so much about the stats as I do in my belief in you. My belief. Because I don't care. I would never believe in Maher. I would never believe in him. I would always wonder in the back of my mind, if I go to you, are you going to make it? And there's something to be said about a coach that just has belief in his guy.
Well, and Scotty, he's even admitted that he was a target before camp even started. So, yeah, he was looking for his guy.
Well, listen, every athletic director wants his guy as a head coach. Every general manager usually wants his guy as a head coach. Every head coach wants the most valuable players on the team, their guy. Russ isn't their guy, but they had a relationship before, and I think this will work out. So, yeah, you got a guy who's a mouthpiece. You only saved by cutting McManus and now bringing in Lutz. I think Andy said
it's not about money.
Yeah, like $500,000 maybe.
And you still have like $9 million available.
Yeah.
So it's not about money.
Yeah. So this all had to do about control in the locker room. One thing I say about McManus, because he came down to tons of games, and he would be with offensive linemen, defensive linemen. He'd be with wide receivers. He'd be with, I don't know if he's ever there with Russ, but I mean, he had a myriad of friends that he would come to games with. So I think he was an influence, and probably Payton knew that somehow.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Nelly, what's next?
Tyler, you teased this before the break. Kelly Stafford has a podcast called The Morning After with Kelly Stafford. And the other day she talked about her husband, Matt Stafford, and some struggles that he's having with the Rams right now. Mostly, they've got a lot of turnover on that roster. There are a bunch of new guys, and he doesn't know how to connect with this younger generation. Stafford is 35. He's entering his 15th NFL season. And she went on to say, quote, in the old days, you'd come out of practice, you'd shower, and people would be playing cards, interacting. Who knows what they're doing, but they're doing something together. Playing ping pong. They have a tournament going on. They'd at least be talking. But now they get out of practice and meetings during training camp and they go straight to their phones. No one looks up from their phones. Matt's like, I don't know. Am I their dad? Do I take their phones? What do I do here? I want them to see me not as a coach. And evidently Rams players are also referring to him as Sir.
Well, especially after this, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, so Sean McVay was asked about this, and he kind of poo-pooed it. And 100% I agree with Sean McVay's response. I think for the most part, this was Kelly Stafford making fun of her old man of a husband. That's what Sean McVay had to say. Like, this is just like, hey, he's the old man on the block right now. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not a problem. I think that what she's saying is real, and you do have to go out of your way to make sure that you are present and known by your teammates. Peyton Manning wasn't my buddy. Peyton Manning was my quarterback. Peyton Manning was an entity of his own right that he did a good job of getting us together on Thursday nights, buying meals for everybody, stuff like that, making sure we know him. But look, man, I mean, it was business.
But then he wouldn't hang around all night with you guys
No.
and then maybe buy the meal and then head home.
No, absolutely. And I think, first off, 35 is not even that old anymore. But you've been in the league for 15 years. And that's the point. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think that players follow skill more than they follow leadership. And if you got the skill and you ball out, they're behind you.
Well, and my real question is, and I don't know, this is some private conversation that Kelly had with her husband, so like maybe it's taken out of context, but what's the problem with you being a coach? Like, these coaches have to relate to them too and find ways to relate to them, but they also should think of you as a little bit of an authority figure, right? Like, you want the quarterback to have that kind of control over the locker room, on the field, all the time. So I don't really see what the problem is if you think of him as more of a coach than your buddy.
I didn't look at Peyton Manning like he was my peer.
Yeah, exactly.
He was not my peer. I mean, not like he didn't separate himself. It wasn't a holier than thou thing. It's just he was Peyton Manning. You know,
leaving notes in guys' lockers about how they can improve.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that's a
But
good thing
he was
to
an
do.
attention to detail guy, and you got to have at least some sort of surface relationship. And it's kind of like if you're watching the HBO stuff with Aaron Rodgers, and you all of a sudden saw him play, and all of a sudden you saw more of the old Aaron Rodgers come out and getting upset in that one practice because dude ran the wrong route. He came over and talked to him and said, blah. You got to do this. You got to come out here and you'll be wide open. Well, I guarantee you Peyton had a lot of conversations with that. Of course. They didn't say, hey, after work, you want to go grab a cappuccino?
Right.
You know, but because just like Aaron Rodgers in New York this year, when Peyton Manning finally came here, even with a year missed because of that injury, he had paper. And this is where I think Russ missed out last year. He came in this team last year with paper.
Yeah.
He had a pedigree. And his first thing should have been in the locker room. He don't need to be best friends. You don't need to come over to dinner with me and Sierra, nothing like that. But I ought to know each one of you.
Of course.
I ought to know, hey, is your kids here? You got to, on the surface, know absolutely everybody. And I don't think he did that last year.
No.
Interesting.
And I actually found a clip here. I think Kelly Stafford shared this as well. This is Matt Stafford trying to talk to the younger players in the locker room.
So you play a little PlayStation, huh? That's whack. PlayStation is whack. Sup with the whack PlayStation, sup.
Is Xbox where it's at? Was that the moral of the story?
No, PS5 is where it's at.
Oh, okay.
Don't bring that Xbox garbage in here.
Okay, just wondering. Yeah.
Nelly, what's next?
Yeah, yesterday a lot of teams were competing for Jonathan Taylor. Mainly the Miami Dolphins were in the Taylor sweepstakes. And then there was another secret team that was allegedly making a pass at him. And today people revealed that as the Packers. So their GM, Brian Gutekunst, was asked about this, like, were you guys really in the sweepstakes? And actually, at the start of his press conference, before anyone asked him anything, he came out and said, let me get the checklist out. First of all, I can't talk about players on other teams. We tried to be in every conversation. So, anytime we have good players available to us, we'd like to make the Green Bay Packers better, and we'll look at all those opportunities. So that's what I've got to say about that.
People just make too big of a deal about it. Sorry to jump in, but people make too big of a deal about this. It is the GM's job to call every time there's a player that's a good player available. Call and figure out what the price is. It doesn't mean that they're going to trade Jair Alexander for Jonathan Taylor. It is their duty as a general manager to call and get a price.
Because you got Trey Lance, you got running back in Indy, blah, blah, blah. Do you think Denver's hesitation at all from reaching out for some of those guys, it comes from or stems from the fact that you've given up a whole lot of draft picks 1 year for a coach, a whole lot of draft picks 1 year for a quarterback, and the media, national and local, kind of has hammered you because you didn't have enough draft picks? Do you think that may have made George Payton a little gun shy as far as going after a guy?
Well, absolutely, it could be. But that's actually, for that reason, that's why I was interested in Trey Lance. Because a fifth rounder is what I said I would have traded for Trey Lance.
And Dallas got him for a fourth.
And they got him for a fourth rounder. But if you do need a quarterback in a year's time, you have no ammunition to get a quarterback. And so if I had to give up a fifth rounder and it doesn't work out, oh, well, who cares? It was a fifth rounder. But for that reason, that's why I was interested. But when it comes down to it, if it's a fifth rounder and they weren't interested in a fifth rounder, hey, I'll take them at their word. They just don't think he's good at football. I mean, that's what they're saying. It's not about the draft pick or the commodities. They just don't think he's good at football.
Well, and that goes back to your belief in a guy statement that you made earlier. Yeah. If Sean Payton doesn't believe that he's good at football, then what are we doing? There's no reason to go for it. But you still should call and find out at least what the price is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And, those late round picks, you can talk about how valuable they really are. On deeper teams, a lot of times those guys don't really do much. They might make the roster, they might be special teamers, but they really don't do much. On a team like this, I feel like it does matter because you got to replenish that depth with guys that Sean Payton believes in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Nelly, what's next?
Guys, I've got great news. Your favorite TV show, Undisputed, is back.
Nice.
Except now they're doing it by committee. It's basically anyone who can stomach Skip Bayless is in. And so when it premiered on Monday, it was Skip with Michael Irvin, Keyshawn Johnson, and Richard Sherman.
And Skip couldn't say a word.
He had nothing. He couldn't get a word in edgewise because things got chippy when Michael Irvin shared some advice for CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Michael Irvin, Hall of Fame receiver for the Cowboys, had some advice for the young receiver currently on the Cowboys. And he said that CeeDee might benefit from catching passes with his body every now and then. Richard Sherman did not agree with that at all. And then that led to some craziness. As you're listening to this, you got to picture Michael Irvin stood up out of his seat and he started moving around and waving his arms like he was giving a sermon at a Southern Baptist church. Keyshawn Johnson turned and did a Jim from the Office camera turn, and Skip Bayless sat there with his teeth in his mouth saying absolutely nothing. And stomach as much of this as you can.
He finished. I told him, I said, listen, man, with all these people around you, learn to catch this ball in your body. Right. So in your hands, you tighten up, ball goes through you. Or you tighten up, ball hits the ground.
That's the worst advice I've ever heard for a receiver. Don't catch it with your hands, catch it with your body.
How you gonna tell me that's the worst advice? I'm only one of the best to ever do it at playing that game.
What I'm saying, you gonna say catch it with your body and not your hands.
It led to championships on every level. What I'm talking about doing, I want championships on every level doing. I don't know how you're going to say that's bad advice. How is that bad advice?
Because if you're telling kids to catch with their body and not their hands.
Sure, you got to listen to what he's saying.
One second.
No.
I understand what he's saying.
Thank you.
But what I'm saying, I play quarter. Every single time, I'm getting that up out of there. You're not breathing in your body. Catch it with your hands out here. But what I'm saying is, y'all are making excuses. A professional. 12.
So you're saying another Alabama receiver has struggles catching with his hand?
I mean, listen, Richard's talking like we're talking to 10-year-olds. Like, yeah, I want my kid to catch with his hands. I wish Jerry Jeudy would catch the ball with his hands. I do. It drives me nuts. But I know what Michael Irvin's talking about. He's talking about when he gets in traffic. You know, we used to be taught, even offensive linemen used to have to get taught all the points of contact with the football. You want your palm on one side of the ball. You want your forearm on one side of the ball. You want your bicep on one side of the ball. And then you want your body on the other side of the ball. So you got like 5 points of contact on that ball. So when you get in traffic, the people can't get to it.
Tell Drew Sanders that.
There you go. Yeah. But I think that's what Michael Irvin was talking about, is when you get in traffic, you gotta seal that ball off from people.
Well, and I understand what Sherman's talking about. If I'm on you, and if you're not extending out to get it, and then I slap you, boom, strong hands, and if you're waiting until it gets right here, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
And so I understand what both of them said. The problem is they both are egomaniacs. Let's be honest. And
I think those two are going to come to blows.
Neither one of them want to listen. And I also took from Irvin's standpoint was, dude's dropping too many passes, use your body then.
Yeah.
And that's kind of Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion, same thing. He, like the game one, he drops the one wide open, could have been a touchdown or at least first down and goal. In his hands, ball pops out. Crossing route, next play, fourth down, boom, catches it right in his body, goes in, walks in for a touchdown. He's more comfortable catching with his body. He's got to get better catching with his hands, because there are times you got to.
Oh, 100%.
Ball's out in front of you, it's a hand catch.
Go get it.
It's also different because in Michael Irvin's day, one, you could light up somebody who's catching the ball across the middle. So you got to use your body to protect the ball a little bit there.
Yeah.
And then two, the cornerbacks weren't as long and lanky as they are in the NFL nowadays. That is a more recent development, and Richard Sherman is one of the guys that made it like that.
Because you probably can't hit guys like you used to. And so now you need long guys to go with long receivers.
And can probably reach around and affect that ball differently than the guys that Michael Irvin was going against. Yeah. So I think it's also like a generational, NFL generations between them.
The problem is, and again, I'll say this, they both had parts that are absolutely correct. And they got too big of egos to listen to each other.
Yeah, to realize, hey, actually, you could be right and I'm right at the same time.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually, speaking of big egos, Terrell Owens weighed in on this on Twitter. He quoted the video of this whole dispute, and he said, every receiver coach and head coach is cringing right now listening to this notion for receivers to catch with your body. In some cases, yes, but this isn't bad advice. This is terrible advice. And I have more touchdowns than Key and Mike combined.
Oh, wow.
I'm hashtag Team Sherman on this one.
You know, Kreckman and Lindahl do beef tweets after us, and I feel like that might make it in.
That could be a good beef tweet.
That'd be a great beef tweet.
I will say this, and watching some of that interaction earlier, you want to tell Keyshawn to just shut your mouth? Because I thought he was just, dude, come on now. I mean,
I was going to say, there's a couple people I really don't want to listen to talk about.
Keyshawn
I like
Johnson,
Sherman, but like Keyshawn with all his stuff about Jokic.
I cannot stand listening to his holier than that. Every single time he talks, it is the most holier than thou thing I've ever heard in my life. Almost worse than Scott Hastings.
Yeah. And I'll admit right now, I am not holier than thou. I am a bad sinner. I am a flawed man.
Well, thanks for that. We appreciate your honesty, Scott.
Trying to get better, though.
All right,
takes one to know one, bud.
Make sure you get signed up to go see Luke Bryan in Vegas. Ooh. If you want to go win a trip, airfare, hotel, and tickets to see him in Vegas, you need to text Coaster in right now. Make sure you're texting Coaster before 3 o'clock so you can get qualified to win on Altitude Sports Radio.
Hey, Tyler here for the best sportsbook in Colorado. That is my friends over at Superbook Sports. If you don't have their app on your phone, you're doing yourself a disservice. Download their app today. Sign up using promo code Polumbus. That's promo code Polumbus. Get yourself up to $250 first bet deposit bonus. Guys, the most trusted name in Las Vegas, and they're live right here in Colorado from the palm of your hand. So download the app today. Sign up using promo code Polumbus. You're going to love the odds that you find with Superbook because they've got the best odds makers in the industry. They're live on site out in Las Vegas. They set all of their prices in person so that you can make the most money possible. I know there's a lot of options out there. Go ahead, download them, experiment with them, but you're going to keep coming back to Superbook because you're going to love the app, you're going to love the odds, and you're going to love the promos. Free $250 if you sign up using promo code Polumbus. You can visit superbook.com to wager and win. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. It's Polumbus, Hastings, and Dover. I'm Rob Trujillo filling in for Dover while he's on vacation. Now, you can still get in for a couple minutes here to try to win the grand prize trip to Vegas to see Luke Bryan. But we have pulled our winner for the $303 $50 Sports Grill gift card. So do we announce that now, Nelly? You want to do that now?
Yes, and actually, point of clarification, with these keywords, it goes until 240. The keywords are active, and then we pick a winner at 245.
Okay.
So actually,
we got them both.
Today's keyword is currently closed.
So you got to wait for tomorrow to get signed up.
If you text it after 240, then
your
coaster's not occupied.
Feel free to text us.
No more.
If you got unlimited data.
I mean, you can still just text us and say hi.
Yeah,
because we want to talk to you. We want to hang out.
Exactly. But no, we'll have a keyword tomorrow and Friday. Same deal. You have till 240 to get in, and then we announce the gift card winner at 245.
All right, and today's gift card winner, Rob. Why have the names all been tough all week long?
Smigelski.
What is it?
Rob Smigelski?
Smigelski?
We had one very similar yesterday. What was yesterday's? Do you guys remember that? You weren't here. Neither one of you.
No, I mean, I was listening, though. And
yesterday's winner was Schmosh Schmover, I think was the name.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Schman Schmanner was the winner.
Why have all
you know
these
what? Rob knows who he is.
Tough?
Yeah.
Yeah, why have all these names been tough?
Rob knows who he is.
For the guy who's filling in on
we are a show of the people.
That's right.
Yeah. and people just ain't, Smiths.
That's true. That's true. I mean, listen, my last name is not easy, so I sympathize, but
I teased you guys earlier. I got a name I want the Broncos to go sign. I got a wide receiver I want the Broncos to go sign.
Tell me who you got.
Now, keep in mind, look, you got to keep in mind context here. You're not going to go find somebody better than Jerry Jeudy right now. You're not going to go find somebody better than Cortland Sutton right now. So although we would love to find that, Scott, good luck. Good luck. I mean, in all sincerity, good luck. You're not going to find it unless you go make some crazy trade. You're certainly not finding it on the street. Jarvis Landry's not going to be better than them if he was.
Jarvis Landry 2 years ago would be better than them.
Of course, 2 years ago. Yeah, sure, I'll give you that. So the name I'm going to bring up right now, it's not to replace Jerry Jeudy. It's not to replace Cortland Sutton, but it's to be an addition that could serve a role on this football team. Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie, IMAC, a dude that was cut by the Broncos about 4 years ago, goes out to Buffalo.
You just want that smoke, don't you?
What smoke?
But he had a couple good years in Buffalo. He's a Bills fan.
You got to understand, Isaiah McKenzie, if you know how to utilize that dude, he's got a role on just about any football team. Because he's the type of dude that in a good year, he's going to get about 300, 400 yards. Not a huge contribution, but he's going to be a specialty player that runs specialty roles on your football team that can do things different than anybody else on this team. Maybe Mims could do some of the things that Isaiah McKenzie could do, but he's the type of guy that he's a gadget player that could come serve a very niche role on the football team.
Okay, a niche role, but also one that Washington could fill. You know what I mean? Like,
no, he can't.
One that Mims could fill. Like,
well, maybe Mims. I
mean, you've got speed guys. It's not like you're devoid of speed at the wide receiver position.
We got Mims. Name another. First off, we only got four dudes on the entire roster.
That's true.
So
here's the other thing. Yeah, you mean to tell me that there's no PTSD from Broncos fans if you sign a name like that?
From 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I've got no PTSD left from that. Now, I remember the day that he was crying after he dropped a punt in practice because Emmanuel Sanders was crushing him. I remember that, and yeah, that was ugly. He couldn't catch stinking football.
And muffed three
but guess
in
what?
like a game.
I'm not putting back there to catch punts. I got a dude we just drafted that's going to be doing that for me. I got a guy, what I would utilize Isaiah McKenzie for, I'd be using him on my fly sweeps. I'd be utilizing him on some gadget home run plays. I'd be utilizing him on some reverses. Right? So I'd be putting the ball in his hands where he could play like a punt returner without having to actually catch a punt.
But you wouldn't want Mims to get those touches instead?
I do want Mims to get those touches. This isn't about replacing Mims. That's what I tried to make very clear. You're not getting somebody better than the guys you've got on your roster right now.
His best year in the league was last year, right? He had 42 receptions, 423 yards, 10.1 yards a catch, and 4 touchdowns. He had some, for a third receiver, gadget receiver, whatever you want to call it, guy, he was solid for Buffalo last year.
That's what I started this whole thing off with. You won't find somebody better than Jerry Jeudy. You won't find somebody better than Cortland Sutton, and you arguably won't even find somebody better than Mims. But what you can do is you can add very specific niche type players to your roster right now.
And players that'll give Broncos fans everywhere PTSD.
Well, see, I don't know if they will because I don't.
I don't even know if Broncos fans remember Isaiah McKenzie.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But I don't necessarily look at it as bad. I look more at the body of work he had in Buffalo because there was times in Buffalo you're like doing the show going, could be here, could have been here.
Yeah,
So I don't punt and kick returns. Let's see for fumbles.
Yeah, I'm not putting him back there. I got PTSD on that. I'm not putting him back there for that.
He had one big fumble with the Bills. He didn't really do it all that much though. So, all right, I did want to ask you guys. There's an interesting story out of Jacksonville. Doug Peterson's the coach down there, and he signed his son, who was a tight end in the offseason, to go through training camp with them. Now, his son is like a USFL tight end. He's not, the greatest. So I think they kind of knew that the day was going to come that Doug Peterson had to cut his own son from his roster. But that day was yesterday. And it just made me wonder, I think everybody has, I think a lot of people have memories of their dad coaching them in sports. Do you guys have any funny stories about your dad having to cut you? I guess you were both pretty good athletes, so probably not. But any stories about your dad coaching you, Tyler?
No, I mean, I definitely got memories of my dad coaching me. He coached me just about everything I ever did as a youth athlete. He coached basketball, he coached soccer, he coached just about everything. I got great memories of dad coaching. I'll say this about Doug Peterson, though. It's always dangerous when you hire your son. It's always dangerous it's less dangerous when they're a tight end. It's less dangerous when they're a role player. But when you bring in your son, of course, there's going to be the nepotism accusations. I give him credit. Hey, man, I see nothing wrong with giving your son a chance to make the football team.
I've never really seen this much at the pro level. I mean, it's usually college guys or high school guys or something like that. And I mean, it's always tough. I coached my daughter in high school on varsity, and we had conversation. I told her, I said, listen, I'm going to be harder on you than anybody else here because there's going to be people saying, oh, you're only this because you're my daughter.
Any dad that coaches that's worth his salt feels the exact same way.
But you got to talk to him about it. But the pros?
Well, and we've got a situation up in Boulder. Nobody's really talked about the nepotism there, but that's because Shador can reportedly can play.
It's only nepotism if somebody gets a role that they do not deserve.
Well,
that's what nepotism is.
Hold on now.
Right?
I believe there was a former CU coach whose son set passing records at CU.
Right.
And everybody couldn't stand that guy was the quarterback.
And you know what the sad reality was about Cody Hawkins? I was on that team. He was the best quarterback we had on our team because nobody was willing to come to see you with a head coach that says, hey, my son is currently the starting quarterback, but you come here and I'll bench him for you. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, Dion doesn't have to worry about that because nobody's replacing Shador. Like he is that dude. He is the dude that deserves it. But with Cody Hawkins, you know what? I don't blame him. He was a good kid. It was his dad's fault for recruiting QB is the one spot of all the spots that you cannot do it. You just cannot recruit your kid unless he's that dude.
So how was Dan Hawkins to play for?
It was a disaster. A disaster in every
I don't think
aspect.
we've ever asked you that.
Man, I'll tell you some Dan Hawkins stories. We used to look, I'm not
this is Division I football.
Yeah.
Go play intramurals, brother.
It's the Big 12.
We would be in the middle of 9-on-7. The most macho period of practice, man on man, offensive line, defensive line, big boys that were running the football. You know what we're doing. Try to stop us, right? We'd be in the middle of the most macho period of practice. Dan would blow his whistle. He'd say, all right, everybody lay down on your back. It's time to visualize. We would stop in the middle of 9-on-7 and start doing visualization drills. Now, I like visualizing, and I utilized it over the course of my career. Not in the middle of 9-on-7, not in the middle of practice. I'll do that before. I'll maybe do that after. I'm not doing that in the middle of practice. But I mean, those are the type of things. He was such a bumper sticker mentality dude that he changed his entire MO every single day based off some book that he read.
Go play intramurals, brother.
It's the Big 12.
I still love that drop.
That will never go away.
All right, fellas. Thank you so much for having me in today. I'm excited to work with you for a couple weeks here. Nelly filling in behind the glass with Josh Grismer. You guys did a fantastic job as always.
I think I played in the Super Bowl and the World Series. I'm good.
Pressure. I don't feel pressure.
And Nelly, we expect more from you musically over the next.
You know what? I thought it did pretty solid today.
I'm just ready for a funky Friday, man. We'll get the vibes cranked up to 11.
Hey, real fast. I told these guys the other day I got down a rabbit hole. How good is John Mayer as a guitarist?
Incredible. He's vastly underrated because everybody thinks of him as the bubblegum pop singer that made him famous. That's the tip of the iceberg, man. He is an incredible guitarist.
Unbelievable.
You know who else is incredible? 303. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody.
Hey!
Ding dong. Oh, that's a wrap.